This feudal lord is highly scientific. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 651, Preparing for the Trip to the Fearless Tower. The results are out. Lin Ke was still thinking about Ruin's appearance in his mind. It would be better if Ruin had longer hair, a fuller figure, and was a woman. What a pity. Thinking of this, Lin Ke was shocked again, and then quickly drove away distracting thoughts, and looked at the results in his hand. The results this time were almost overwhelming. 99.5% of the senators voted for the affirmative side. That is, they agreed to pay salaries to those who created and joined the doctrine. And 0.5% of the people, even if they disagreed, put forward many constructive opinions. For example, the reason for some people's opposition was that, if there was a doctrine that all intelligent life in the world must join, wouldn't Dahuang City have to spend money everywhere? Others also proposed that, if the money was invested in school construction or education funds such as tuition reduction, the talents cultivated might be far greater than those cultivated by the doctrine. In short, Lin Ke was finally satisfied after seeing the votes and reasons for the votes of the senators this time. Yes, that's what I want to see. Lin Ke read the results and the reasons written by some senators and nodded with satisfaction. Some points we didn't expect. For example, look at this one. So, the power of the people is great. But only the young master discovered and released this power, and the most powerful one is the young master. John nodded in agreement. First subconsciously praised Lin Ke, and then continued, I have collected the manuscripts of these senators, and the opinions and views will be announced later. We will also pay attention to the security of the senators. Lin Ke smiled, and shook his head, I'm just a prior. The real power is the fulcrum, the crowbar and the pride power. Young master, you are still so humble. John smiled, just like when they were children, very harmonious. Well, then take advantage of the fact that the whole nation's attention is on the 100 Schools of Thought conference these days. Let's go to the Fearless Tower. Lin Ke smiled, I think those few can't wait. Fearless Tower. From the mythological era to the present, this grand engineering project has been lingering in the hearts of all the strong. There are 3 continents on this planet. On the 3 continents, there are plain crystal walls, and outside the plain crystal walls, there is the Fearless Tower. Rather than saying that the Fearless Tower has a head and a bottom, it is better to say that it is a fearless ring that is connected from head to tail and is said to be infinite. Think about it, the planet Nasan is probably almost as big as the sun in the previous life, and such a large project was completed by Andrew alone. You can imagine how terrifying Andrew is. But he is a strong man who founded the professional system in the mythological era, which is reasonable. The reason why the Fearless Tower attracts strong people is because there are abundant energy, laws and even rules there. Normally, whether it is absorbing energy or comprehending laws and rules, if it is 10 in Nassang, then it is 1 in the secondary plane, and it may be 50 or 60 in the Fearless Tower, and even up to 100 in some places. This is the attraction of the Fearless Tower. However, the master of the Fearless Tower is Andrew. There is no one on this planet who can beat Woomian, not to mention that Andrew has hugged Woomian who wears open crotch pants. If you use force, you will definitely not be able to enter the Fearless Tower. You know, Andrew is already strong, and with the blessing of the huge magic tower of the Fearless Tower, I'm afraid that even 10 Woomian will be useless. Other masters? Take a break. So, we can only use soft tactics. The problem is that Andrew is in the Fearless Tower, and other people can't see him at all. They can't even see him, let alone beg him. Fearless Tower has always been Andrew who accepts people without reason. Of course, this is actually reasonable. If it is the Sun God who has the Fearless Tower and Andrew's strength, Nassang would have changed its name to Sun God plain long ago. If Andrew is unreasonable, no intelligent life dares to imagine this. So, this further highlights the importance of Lin Ke's 10 places here. The difficulty of breaking through each level above Legend and God is more difficult than the difficulty of breaking through all previous levels. This also results in these talents being the most hungry and most desired for the places in the Fearless Tower. Otherwise, how can Dahuang University attract so many people to teach? Otherwise, even if Wu Mian personally takes the stage, it is estimated that he cannot support the current faculty of Dahuang University. Lin Ke also has requirements for this quota. For students, there is only one chance, that is, the sum of all the achievements in the past 5 years of university. That's right, Dahuang University requires 5 years of study. All the achievements of students in these 5 years are added together to obtain a quota to go to the Fearless Tower. There are 5 quotas each year, which can only be obtained by students in the 5th year. The other 5 quotas are all for faculty and staff. In other words, before the graduation year of Rishal and his class of students arrives, the faculty and staff can evaluate 10 quotas. That is, 40 quotas. This is a benefit that Lin Ke gives to these faculty and staff. After all, after this year, Lin Ke also discovered that most of these faculty and staff are actually teaching wholeheartedly and continuing the traditional teacher-disciple system of Nassim. You know, whether it is Nassim or Dahuang, there are no sophisticated egoists like in the previous life, and not all teachers are unethical teachers who are for the limit and money. Now, the relationship between teacher and disciple is like that between Lin Ke and Aofu, which is a very close relationship. Of course, there are a very small number of teachers who become teachers for certain things, but the proportion is far less than that in some dark novels in the previous life. The world is not pure light, nor can it be endless darkness. The world is colorful. As for whether someone wants to define it as light or darkness, it is a matter of personal vision. In short, in Lin Ke's place, rewards and punishments are clear. Notify the teachers to prepare. We will set off tomorrow. Lin Ke said to John, remember not to make it public, and then make it public after we come out. Lin Ke had actually announced the selection of this time at the faculty meeting a long time ago, but it was not made public, and even the students didn't know. This is not the previous life. In the Great Wilderness, it was too easy for Lin Ke to do something without telling everyone, especially in the plane of the Great Wilderness University. And the people at the faculty meeting also signed a confidentiality agreement, so no one in the outside world knew what the quota for the Fearless Tower was. However, for the teachers, they actually knew. Okay, young master. John nodded, and then said, but Miss Soraka said she really wants to go and see. Don't pay attention to her, she just wants to show off to her classmates. Lin Ke's face darkened, and he scolded John. We have to be fair, don't spoil her all the time, she will be spoiled sooner or later. Chapter 652 Teleport. Fearless Tower. Master, the most pet is definitely not me. John looked at Lin Ke with a smile. The result of John came back again, and hammered a hammer with a cheap manner. Yes, master. However, master, you are still the most pet. After that, John's figure disappeared again. In the case, all the servants around him were the master of him. Only John, a person who could be called a friend. In fact, for people of any age, the difficulty of obtaining the power from accompaniment must be far below the difficulty of obtaining the strength from loneliness. Therefore, John would only maintain his housekeeper persona in public, which was also to protect Lin Ke. And in private, Lin Ke only knew that, whether in the past life or now, the most despicable ones were brothers. Of course, the most sincere and passionate ones, besides parents, were brothers. Perhaps in some cases, the besides parents could be deleted. John went to prepare for the trip to the Fearless Tower, while Lin Ke began to think about and review everything he had talked about with the 2 core members of the Holy Life Alliance today. His gains can be said to be huge. Or rather, the gains of the Great Wilderness were huge. The first is trade. Most of the tribes of the Holy Life Alliance are autonomous, but for the weak tribes, the words of their Lord mean everything, and there is no way to resist. Therefore, before the Holy Life Alliance, most of the giant tribes or large tribes that came to the Nassim Trading Center to trade were actually giant tribes or large tribes. But you have to know that the trading volume in the sinking market is often larger. Now, the Holy Life Alliance has resolved its intention to be an enemy of the Great Wilderness, which means that the huge Holy Life Alliance market is finally going to open up to the Great Wilderness, the Black and White Kingdom, and the entire Nassim. The benefits of this are not small for the Great Wilderness city. The second one is the most important uranium mine. This is actually also included in the trade. but it should be a strategic resource. The Rat Lord promised Lin Ke that he could choose 10 mines from the Holy Life Alliance at will, whether they are giant or small mines. This is simply ceding land and paying compensation. As for the third one, it is even more amazing. The Great Wasteland City and the Holy Life Alliance have full exchanges, and the Holy Life Alliance does not set any restrictions. Unilateral no restrictions. That is, my people can go to your place if they want to, and come back if they want to, but your people still have to go through customs when they come to me. This is fucking. Lin Ke actually wanted to agree directly when he said this, because he was afraid that the Rat Lord would go back on his word. Fortunately, he continued to listen, otherwise the benefits would definitely be much less. You know, this unilateral no restrictions means that the various resources of the Holy Life Alliance are basically open to the Great Wasteland. What is the charm of these things like economy, trade, and finance? It's money. What is the charm of money? It's that it is a general equivalent. In the future, Lin Ke is confident that the only common currency of the Holy Life Alliance will become the currency used in the Great Wasteland City. Of course, the Rat Lord also hopes that Lin Ke can guide the Holy Life Alliance more. For example, at the end of this year, the Great Wasteland University and the University of the Holy Life Alliance may be able to exchange and learn. In short, the Rat Lord is indeed full of sincerity, whether it is from the original meaning of sincerity, or from the derived meaning of sincerity. Of course, Lin Ke will also remain cautious in the next cooperation, and will not trust him completely as he trusts his followers. After sorting for a while, Lin Ke recorded the information on paper, and handed it to the magma dragon, and then he took out the artifact rotten wood block to meditate. The next day, in front of the teaching building of the Great Wasteland University, 10 faculty members stood in front of Lin Ke, looking excited. They were the deans and vice deans of the 3 colleges, 4 professors, associate professors and 3 lecturers. According to a certain amount of contribution and effort, there are only so many people from the Great Wasteland University who go to the Fearless Tower. The deans of the 3 colleges are all legendary, excluding Aofu and Kanako, who are all new to the Great Wasteland. As for the other members, the lowest level is the 15th level, Beast Tamer, from the School of Biology, and the highest is the 20 level Star level, Wild Knight, from the Knight Academy, and another, Merchant, from the School of Economics. One is a lecturer, and 2 are professors. The others are in between. Everyone, we are going to the Fearless Tower today for 10 days. After 10 days, you will be sent back by my teacher Andrew. Lin Ke looked at the few people and said, I hope you can gain something from the Fearless Tower. Lin Ke's face was full of sincere smiles, which made the 10 people feel like spring breeze. Lin Ke, no matter what, thank you this time. Yes, yes. Principal, thank you. We have been stuck in the bottleneck for too long, and hope to make a breakthrough. Thank you, Mr. Lin Ke. The expressions of the 10 people were very happy, and they were also full of kindness to Lin Ke. Because Lin Ke did not show any favoritism during the evaluation process, not even one of his own followers was selected, and those who were selected were all truly evaluated. Before, there were many conspiracy theorists in the outside world saying that Lin Ke would definitely operate in secret, but now, such remarks have been refuted. Lin Ke shook his head and smiled. This is all due to your hard work. You deserve it. He didn't need to give such a precious quota to his followers, because none of his followers had any bottlenecks so far. Have bottlenecks? It's better to find Lin Ke than to go to the Fearless Tower. At least Lin Ke has a lot of things from his past life in his mind, which are enough for them to use, at least enough to use the legend. And even if they encounter a problem that even Lin Ke can't solve, it won't be too late to let Andrew do it at that time. Anyway, the Fearless Tower of his teacher is the same as the Azan Castle in Garros. They are all things that belong to the father generation. For Lin Ke, the relationship between the two is extremely close. Therefore, Lin Ke doesn't need to do anything behind the scenes. Well, the time has come. I wish you all a pleasant journey. Lin Ke looked at his pocket watch, and it was just the time for Andrew to pick them up. So the 10 faculty members only felt a slight suction coming, and without resistance, their bodies immediately disappeared from the spot. They went to the Fearless Tower. Chapter 653, Sending the Dark Elemental Clone. Everyone had gone to the Fearless Tower, and Lin Ke was a little free for a while. Lord Lin Ke, the Marquis of Giant Sword, Earl Acre, Earl Kingquin, Earl Blackclaw, Marquis Tulip and others have made reservations to come to the Great Wilderness within this month. Suddenly, the magma dragon Magnus jumped out of the ground and said to Lin Ke, "Oh." Lin Ke thought about it for a while and knew the purpose of their coming. These old friends probably want to support him. They probably thought that if no one went to establish a theory at the 100 Schools of Thought conference, it would be embarrassing. In addition, they probably knew that Lin Ke might have difficulties and wanted to ask if they could help. As for the issue of interests, Lin Ke knew that these old friends would definitely see the changes that the 100 Schools of Thought conference could bring. However, Lin Ke believed that his old friends definitely wanted to help him. The feelings of comrades and brothers-in-law, even after so many years, Lin Ke still remembered them vividly. Looking back on everything that started when he was 6 years old, it seemed like it happened yesterday. The 6-year-old heir of the nobility eventually became one of the most sought-after nobles in Assing, or even the only one. How about this? After a moment of distraction, Lin Ke pondered, "Tell them that if possible, they should all come the day after tomorrow." "Yes, sir." Magnus nodded and was about to leave, but Lin Ke stopped her again. "Wait a minute, Magnus," Lin Ke said. Magnus' eyes were full of doubts. "What's wrong, Lord Lin Ke?" Lin Ke looked at Magnus, but he was full of emotion. Because when he thought of his 6-year-old self, he couldn't help but think of the scene of meeting Magnus. At that time, Magnus was just a remnant soul attached to the dragon corpse. Later, he became the third housekeeper of Azan Castle to some extent, and often accompanied in tower and fueling. At that time, many things were ordered to her, instead of ordering the personal male and female servants. After all, she was faster and more convenient. Later, Magnus directly became the city spirit of Dahuang City. With the strength of Magnus' soul at the star glory level at that time, it was easy for her to become a city spirit. Of course, as the city expanded and various small spaces were embedded, some places in the Great Wasteland City began to use some souls as sub-managers, but Magnus was still the person directly contacted by Lin Ke and others. After more than 10 years of hard work, Magnus never complained or made excessive demands. At most, he liked to write some BL novels in his spare time. Lin Ke thought of Magnus' wishes at the time. One was to have a suitable body again. The other was to find her parents. Her father and mother were both strong. Her father was a legend, and her mother seemed to be at the star glory level or epic level. But no matter what, judging from the long life of the dragon, her parents must still be alive. It's just that before Magnus died, the dragons of the Holy Life Alliance had retreated, and there were no dragons in the Holy Life Alliance of the 5 Holy Life races. This arrogant, powerful, and rare race disdained the rule of the Sun God, so they left with their entire clan a long time ago. Where did she go? No one knows. The only one who might know is the 5-colored dragon mother. Looking at the puzzled Magnus in front of him, Lin Ke couldn't say "I'll take you to find your tribe tomorrow" because he still had a lot of things to do. So, in the end, Lin Ke could only say, "Thank you for your hard work over the years, Magnus." "What?" Magnus raised his eyebrows. "Lord Lin Ke, I haven't published any books under your name recently. Or do you have any requests for me to do something? Licker and the others don't seem to be people who only accept monogamy. If you like Athena, just take her back. Why bother?" "Enough." Lin Ke stopped helplessly. Okay, that's not what I want to talk about." Magnus was surprised. "Then why did you suddenly say such a thing?" "It's weird. You know, Magnus is not like Lin Ke, who suddenly became sentimental. She originally wanted to quickly instruct other city spirits to do Lin Ke's business, and then she would go to Lalita to discuss the plot of the book. Who knew that Lin Ke would suddenly say something so weird and scary? Hey, I originally got an elemental clone and wanted to give it to you as a body. It seems that you don't need it. Okay, forget it." Lin Ke waved his hand. "Then go and get busy." "What?" Magnus' eyes suddenly widened, and his dragon soul flickered. Elemental clone. Lin Ke scratched his head and smiled. No, you still go and get busy. I won't disturb you. You are very busy." Magnus was angry and amused. If you don't give it to me, I will publish the scene of you and Athena chatting in the office. Lin Ke was shocked. You fucking. Didn't I say that you can't pry into other people's private lives? You are poisonous, right? Magnus said complacently. Yes, I didn't pry, so I only know that you and Athena entered the office, and I don't know what you did. And doesn't this provide inspiration for my imagination and creation? Oh, by the way, you and John often stay in the same room. Damn it. Lin Ke was speechless, so she threw out the dark element clone that she had just received and had not yet warmed up in her space ring. Go, 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 take it. Seeing the dark element clone, Magna was extremely excited and subconsciously rushed over, but she braked in the air in time. She looked at Lin Ke and then at the dark element clone. Lin Ke's eyes were full of smiles. Obviously, she had no grudges about accepting this clone. This was also in line with Magnus's understanding of Lin Ke. At least, Lin Ke was not bad to his own people, but this clone was also very precious and important to Lin Ke, right? So far, most of the clones of the strong are ordinary. Magnus knew that even her father, a legend, did not have a clone. With the financial resources of Dahuang City, perhaps it would take 3 years of financial resources to barely create an ordinary clone, and this was the case when those financial resources could buy corresponding precious items. But would Lin Ke do such a thing? Obviously not. You know, although the clone is precious, there must be something more precious to Link. Magnus is very clear about this. Even though the clone represents a life, there is still something more important to Link than a life. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 654, Magnus's Thoughts. How many people have clones? Not to mention the level of Emperor Wumian, let's just talk about the level that Magnus knows and understands. Of Ruwen, Mr. Noble, Goddess of Wealth, Kanako, her father. No one has a clone. Even the Mist Banshee and the Dark Girl, who are descendants of Wumian, don't have clones. Magnus only knows that Rigwen Mobi has 3 clones. But who is Rigwen Mobi? He is the founder of the Forger lineage. Since the mythological era, the ancient times, the medieval times, the recent ancient times, it took years of accumulation to have Rigwen Mobi's 3 clones, and 2 of them are ordinary, and only 1 fire element clone has reached the elemental level. And this black element clone in front of her, Magnus can feel the purest elemental power in it. If her dragon soul enters it, it can immediately become a body with at least reaching the peak level of talent. This is the power of the elemental clone. Even if someone has no talent for a certain element, after having an elemental clone, he can successfully have the corresponding elemental affinity. Such a precious elemental clone, Magnus knew. This is definitely not made by Lin Ke himself, and it can't be. It can only be exchanged in the previous conversation. Magnus immediately remembered Lin Ke's itinerary, the time he met the Sun God of the Holy Life Alliance and the Rat Lord. This Black Tooth, the famous elemental clone of the Rat Lord Adora? Magnus said with an unbelievable voice. Lin Ke saw Magnus's movement to rush to the clone slow down and thought something was wrong, but he just asked this question. He immediately laughed and said, yes. That Majesty Adora turned the clone into a masterless one, and he just absorbed his true spirit and breath. The pure soul power has been left in it. If you go in, the soul power may be replenished. Really? Exclamation mark. Such a precious thing. Give it to me. Magnus didn't say this because she knew that Lin Ke was the kind of person who would do such a thing. In the eyes of some lords and nobles, this is stupid and irrational. But in the eyes of his own people, this is someone who needs to be followed for life. But the best destination for this clone is actually Lin Ke, right? Magnus was extremely tangled in his heart. Why is the best destination Lin Ke? Because Lin Ke's wife is Lin Ke. This secret was also told to Magnus by Lin Ke. That is, in the future Lin Ke may obtain the dominant level of light power or dark power. That is, obtain black or white. But no matter black or white, if this dark elemental clone is placed on Lin Ke, it will definitely make him more powerful in the future. But this is an elemental clone. If he misses this opportunity, Magnus doesn't know if he will have a new chance to obtain a new clone in the future. Magnus was extremely tangled, frowning in the air, and the dragon tail swung away. Lin could be embarrassed for Magnus, or he was too close to his dream, so he had some doubts about the authenticity. So he added fuel to the fire. In addition, Ruin told me that this clone may reach the lore level. Soul lore. Haha, but the requirements are a bit high. Of course, I will try my best to help you upgrade to a lore level clone, but you have to work hard on your own. Lore. Lore level? Exclamation mark. Epic level clones represent more than 2 element. And the lore level represents the lore. This clone actually has the potential to make people friendly to a certain lore. Exclamation mark. The lore level clone is already precious. Even if it only has the potential to become a lore level, it is still a lore level. Just like a prince is not a king, but has the potential to become a king, then he becomes completely different from an ordinary civilian. The shock in Magnus's eyes flashed, and then Lin Ke's frankness and sincerity made her make up her mind. What kind of fool can send a lore level clone away? Well, if Lin Ke is a fool, then she will definitely be more foolish than Lin Ke. Yes, I'm a fool today. Magnus' expression changed, and he was full of disgust for this clone. Lore level clone. No. No. No? Question mark? Lin Ke was stunned, thinking he had heard wrong. Are you sick? Magnus rolled his eyes speechlessly. You are sick. The body you gave me is in human form. How can I ask for it? Human shaped. Lin Ke looked at the humanoid clone about 1.7 meters tall in front of him, and the corners of his mouth twitched. A human shaped clone is okay. Lore level. This is a clone that leads directly to the dark legend. Lin Ke even suspected that Magnus didn't know the importance and scarcity of lore level clones. I know. But it's not like I can't become a legend myself. I think becoming a legend is easy, right? Magnus answered nonchalantly, and then asked back, besides, this is a human form. Human form. If it were you, and you had a dog-shaped clone in front of you, would you be willing to become a dog? Lin Ke opened his mouth, feeling as if the entire human race had been scolded by Magnus for no reason, and he didn't know how to refute. But, this is a lore level 1. Lin Ke had to emphasize again. Magnus mocked, tomorrow I will find you a lore level fly-shaped clone, and the Lord of the Great Wilderness will be a fly in the future. Lin Ke was speechless. Okay, I'm going to get busy. Magnus shook his dragon tail, rushed towards the ground, and disappeared into the ground in an instant. Lin Ke was stunned. Then a miniature dragon head emerged from the ground again, and it was Magnus. Oh, right. I don't want this one, but you still owe me one. Make me a dragon-shaped one in the future, preferably a golden dragon. It's so beautiful when it's shining. I'm gone. After saying this, Magnus dived into the ground again, leaving Lin Ke speechless. Lin Ke stood on the lawn of Dahuang University, feeling disheveled in the wind. But in a flash, Lin Ke reacted again. You little female dragon, I was almost fooled by you. Lin Ke smiled, and shook his head. Turn into a dog. Turn into a fly? For many people who can't break through the bottleneck, turning into a maggot is fine. Does the original body matter? For them, it doesn't matter. Moreover, after becoming powerful to a certain extent, it is completely possible to solidify a transformation spell on the body, and even get the blood of the fairy like the 5-color dragon mother, so that he can change back and forth between humans and dragons. You know, the descendants of fairies are divided into banshees and enchantresses, and enchantresses are famous for their transformation. Therefore, the 5-colored dragon mother often looks like a middle-aged lady, otherwise Wumian would have really become a dragon knight, right? So, Magnus. Haha, I will prepare an all-level mother dragon clone for you in the future, and find you a dragon knight as well. Chapter 655, The Doctrine of the Marquis of Tulip. Since he refused, Lin Ke naturally put away the dark clone again. As for the confidentiality issue, if even Magnus, who is known as the steward of Dahuang City, can't believe it, then what else can Lin Ke believe? Just close the country. So, Lin Ke, who was going to have 2 days of leisure, began to search for information. While meditating to accumulate magic power, he searched for information. That is, how to obtain a large number of souls. This work can only be searched by himself, and cannot be entrusted to others. But the result was very uncomfortable. Nasung's method of collecting souls is the same as he imagined. That is killing, or the core of the plane. Originally, he was thinking about whether there is a way to mass produce souls, or even as long as there is a method to manufacture souls, he will do the mass work. Unfortunately, there is no such thing. Most of Nasung's intelligent life does not focus on the production and manufacturing of souls. They only care about how to make the soul stronger, or how to destroy the soul. Nasung really only thinks about fighting all day long. Since there is no such thing, Lin Ke can only use other methods. One is to open a special research on souls, mainly the birth, growth and death of souls. The other is to collect them directly. He doesn't know how long it will take to reach level 21, but he has to collect souls first. That is, he needs to go to each secondary plane. The development of secondary planes is full of wars and killings. Many secondary planes will have a stress response or the dark forest law when they come into contact with Nasung. That is, no matter who comes, fight first. It's easy to talk if you win, and talk about it later if you lose. There are very few secondary planes that are the kind of friendly external measures of, no matter who comes, let's have friendly contact first. Therefore, it seems that the only way is to go to the secondary plane to collect souls. The plane core is difficult to collect. After all, the shape is uncertain. If you have to compare it, it is like a kind of polymer, similar to the Lord of the Rings, the sword of Zeuxin in Zeuxin, and Pikachu in Pokémon. It may be an object, a creature, or an intelligent life. Only when it is absorbed, you will know whether it is a plane core. Therefore, this led to the difficulty in obtaining the plane core. However, no matter what, if there is a chance to promote the elemental level clone to the law level, Lin Ke will still work hard. Of course, he will not put all his thoughts on this. He is the core, and his own strength is the real strength. For example, the Emperor Wumian, it was not the two black and white swords that shocked the Star World, but his mouth. Therefore, Lin Ke will not completely give up his own growth for the clone. So, Lin Ke, who couldn't find a way, had to give up and practice quietly first. The 100 Schools of Thought conference finally began. The final result of the previously noisy Great Wilderness Conference was also announced to the world. This naturally attracted a large number of people. What is lacking in the world in the entire continent? What is lacking is jobs and talents. However, there is no shortage of people. Therefore, this kind of 100 schools of thought is just like a job in the eyes of many people. Of course, these people are not the target group of this 100 schools of thought. The real target group is more intelligent, more purposeful and targeted intelligent life. What was the 100 schools of thought in Lin Ke's previous life? It was a group of wise men who proposed solutions to the chaotic world. So Confucianism, Mohism, Taoism and other schools of thought came into being. They all have a strong purpose, which is to end the chaotic world. And what about the various schools of thought this time? You can have any purpose, you can have any method, but it must be logical, persuasive, and feasible. If it can be innovative, and have practical and theoretical significance, it will be even better. You can say that your purpose is to end the chaotic world, and your cause is for a woman, or for the dawn of the common people, or for the practice of ideals, or for the unity of knowledge and action, etc. Reason, lead, destination. After making it clear and meeting certain requirements, the doctrine is established. Of course, this means that the review work of Dahuang City will be extremely huge and complicated. If it is an ordinary person, it is really not competent for this job. Fortunately, Dahuang City has tens of thousands of professionals in liberal arts professions such as clerks, accountants, and lawyers. Therefore, no matter how many people sign up every day, the review of the doctrine is proceeding in an orderly manner. Today, a fat white figure appeared at the theory review office. Before signing up for the 100 Schools of Thought conference, one must create and register one's own theory. And to create a theory, one must pay a fee. This is to prevent many people from flocking to it, because it is free. The teaching fee is 1000 coins, which is neither high nor low. If a theory is successfully created, even if there is only one person, then this theory will have an income of 3000 coins per month. That is, 1000 coins per month. Now, the value of 1 coin is similar to 1 yuan in Lin Ke's previous life, and 1000 coins is similar to 1000 yuan. 1000 yuan. If you have the confidence to create it, you will naturally look down on this little money. If you don't have the confidence to create it, you will naturally not spend this money in vain. At this time, this fat white figure lined up to enter the registration office, handed in the registration form, and then accepted the questioning. In order to prevent someone from being illiterate, this time the registration system and the questioning system are adopted. If you write the registration form, the interviewer can ask fewer questions. Flower arrangement theory, founder, tulip. The fat white figure walked into the room and saw that the room was separated by glass. On the other side of the glass, a female clerk was looking at his registration form. Yes. After becoming a Marquis Tulip had few favorite things, and flowers were his biggest hobby. Well, your goal is to let everyone feel the beauty and charm of flowers, and the method is planting and flower arrangement. The female clerk was puzzled. So, Marquis Tulip took out a piece of his proud work from the space ring. A flower arrangement. This is something that Lin Ke casually mentioned to Marquis Tulip, and he remembered it in his heart. Flower arrangement is to make a special combination of flowers or other plants, and then become a stunning work of art. It can make flowers have a charm far beyond themselves through various combinations and matching. This is flower arrangement. Marquis Tulip took out his work and immediately attracted the attention of the clerk. So beautiful. The clerk was fascinated by it in an instant, and there was a magic circle protecting it, proving that the clerk was completely attracted by that kind of beauty. I seem to feel vitality from it. Chapter 656 Old Friends. That's right. Marquis Tulip nodded with satisfaction. My flower arrangement can restore the mental power of people within level 10. This is my flower arrangement. Flower arrangement. People within level 10 can actually restore their mental power by viewing this flower arrangement! Exclamation mark. Moreover, according to the observation of the female clerk, it seems that these flowers are made of ordinary flowers. Suddenly, the female clerk knew that the person in front of her must be the legendary big shot. So the female clerk hurriedly read the application form carefully. The theory of flower arrangement belongs to the category of art. The founder of the theory, Tulip, wants to put this theory on a par with music, painting, etc. At the same time, he wants to collect and organize all the flowers in the heavens and stars, and use the method of flower arrangement to make various flower arrangements, and use this to achieve various effects. The female clerk read out the content on the application form, and the more she read, the more frightened she was. Coupled with the flower arrangement she just saw, she made a decision immediately. You know, she just looked at the flower arrangement through the glass, and felt that the fatigue of the whole day was swept away. What an amazing invention. You have passed the preliminary assessment. More assessments and debates will be waiting for you later. I wish you success. The female clerk returned the registration form with a seal with a very powerful aura on it. The aura on the seal is almost the same as that of the female clerk, and there are other auras. Pass the preliminary assessment. This means that this theory has passed the preliminary review, and can be regarded as one of the theories that will be paid in the future. Of course, you must have achievements at all times. There will be assessments later. The second part of the assessment is mainly to see whether the classification of the founder of this theory is correct. For example, if the founder of a theory that should have been classified in the chemistry category filled in the physics category, it will be adjusted by the corresponding reviewers. The third part is speech and debate. Every founder of a theory has the opportunity to go to a lecture room in the wonderful land to give a speech and explain his own theory in the next period of time. After the explanation, accept the questions and doubts of other founders of the theory, and then answer and debate. It is not like the defensive graduation thesis or graduation project in Lin Ke's previous life, which is simply only answering, but not arguing, and what the teacher says is right. The defense here must be a real defense. And these corresponding contents will also be made into a photo stone program for dissemination. Even some of the more popular ones will be specially reported and broadcast live. And there may be more than one. If some theories are more meaningful and valuable, they will definitely be widely circulated, and may even have many followers. Marquis Tulip took the theory creation form that he had already stamped and walked out of here quite proudly. Theory? Of course he wants to create it. Not only to support Lin Ke, but also as a stage. Marquis Tulip actually wanted to communicate and chat with some people who share the same interests. So he has a very close relationship with Grand Duke Greenleaf. In addition, Marquis Tulip also hopes to find like-minded people to work together. Although he is a marquis, among the people below, in such a large territory, there are not many who really like flowers like him. For example, asking the servants to collect flowers and asking the same enthusiasts to collect flowers will have completely different effects. It must be said that Tulip has always felt that Lin Ke is a man full of miracles. Now that he has established his own theory, he thinks so even more. If it were in the past, no matter how much they like, how much achievement could they have? Like Tulip himself, he is a typical person who only knows how to play with flowers and plants in the eyes of others. He himself has never thought of gathering a group of like-minded people to play with flowers and plants together, because he himself thinks this is a kind of playthings that will ruin his ambition. Because flower arrangement is purely for the sake of beauty. But now, he doesn't think so. At the beginning, when Lin Ke commented on majors such as art and aesthetics, he said, "Beauty can also bring power." Tulip, have you registered too? Haha. At this time, someone greeted Tulip Marquis not far away. Tulip looked over, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Giant Sword. Marquis of Giant Sword. I saw the Marquis of Giant Sword, whose face was always gloomy, walking over with an ugly smile. Haha. How about it? What is your theory? When the Marquis of Giant Sword saw Tulip's appearance, he knew that he must have come to apply to establish a theory, and he succeeded. It's just flowers and plants. What about you, Mr. Giant Sword? Marquis Tulip was cheerful, his white and fat face was full of joy. Flowers and plants? That's fine, I just fight and kill. Haha, ha ha ha. Giant Sword laughed very happily. The two of them walked out while talking and saw a steady stream of people walking in the direction they came from. They were all people who wanted to establish a theory. Some people followed them out, some were dejected, some were indignant, and some were full of joy. People came and went at the application window. It was very lively, just like a vegetable market. But if you look closely, you will find that these intelligent beings who apply for theories have all kinds of characteristics, and this characteristic makes even their race unable to conceal their temperament. They may be aloof, friendly, explosive, or easygoing. The successful have their own success, and the losers have their own failures. There are also some people who want to yell there, but there are many police present, so they are naturally arrested one by one. After leaving the stadium, Marquis Tulip and Marquis Giant Sword each came to their own mounts. The registration office was inside the stadium, and there were many cars parked outside the stadium. Mr. Tulip, Mr. Giant Sword, my master invites you. At this moment, two humans in suits drove two bullock carts pulled by bloodthirsty iron bulls and saluted the two men in front of the carts. Seeing the Lava family logo on the suits of the two men, Marquis Tulip and Marquis Giant Sword looked at each other. Is your master Lin Ke? Marquis Tulip asked. Yes. One of the men in suits smiled and replied, the master is waiting for you at the Lucky Flower Bar. The Lucky Flower Bar is one of the more high-end bars, but unlike the Greenleaf Juice Bar, the Lucky Flower Bar is specifically for groups, and not for individuals. This is also the property of Boldjack. Let's go. It seems that Lin Ke knows we are coming. Marquis Giant Sword smiled. Let's go. Marquis Tulip raised the registration form in his hand and smiled. Do you think Lin Ke will also create a theory? Chapter 657 The Art of Flower Arrangement. Lucky Flower Bar, a private room. Haha, Lin Ke was like this back then, frowning all day long. I was a little scared when I saw him. Count Kingpin said with a smile. You didn't talk much back then, we privately thought you looked down on us. Count Blackclaw glared, then patted his hairy chest and said, of course, this sentence was not said by me, but by the Great Sword. Lin Ke looked at this scene, and just found it funny. It seems that the Great Sword didn't say such a thing back then. Or, at that time, no one thought that Count Kingpin looked down on them, because everyone knew that Count Kingpin's personality was like that. When did I say such a thing? Just as Black Claw was talking nonsense there, the voice of the Marquis of the Great Sword sounded from outside the door. Lin Ke smiled and said, "Look, Black Claw, you were heard saying bad things about people behind their backs. They sat on the comfortable sofa, and the magic creature served them tea and water, so they seemed very comfortable." Click. The door opened, and the Marquis of the Great Sword and the Marquis of the Tulip walked in. "Long time no see." Seeing Lin Ke, the Marquis of Giant Sword nodded with a smile, and then Lin Ke, who stood up, hugged him tightly. The Marquis of Tulip did the same. Feeling Lin Ke's attitude, the atmosphere on the scene became warm. The people here are all nobles, but they are all nobles who participated in the Lava Swamp War of Monsters when Lin Ke was 6 years old. They have experienced life and death comrades in arms. The Black and White Kingdom rarely fights with foreign countries. Most of them are lords fighting each other, or wars against secondary planes. Wars like the Lava Swamp are easy to cultivate mutual feelings. After several people sat down, Lin Ke smiled and said, "You two will not apply for the establishment of a theory, right? The purpose of these old friends coming here is obvious, just to support Lin Ke." Of course, after they came, they found that they didn't need them to support the scene. The popularity of the 100 Schools of Thought conference was unimaginable. It was even a little bit that Earl Blackclaw's theory was not passed. Haha, it seems that everyone is here for the doctrine. Count Blackclaw laughed and said proudly, "Can you two have a good doctrine? Don't let my doctrine surpass you later." As he said that, Blackclaw took out his registration form. On the doctrine column, there were 4 nascent common words written. Wolf breeding. Wolf breeding? Marquis of Giant Sword raised his eyebrows. Can this thing establish a doctrine? Marquis of Tulip next to him blushed. He was still a flower and grass. When Count Blackclaw heard what the Giant Sword said, his face immediately fell. "What are you talking about? Wolves have always been one of the important mound breeds, and the power of my Blackclaw Knights is known to everyone on the continent." "Humph, I think you are just jealous of me. What is your doctrine?" "Mine." Marquis of Giant Sword took out the registration form from the space ring. The other people looked over immediately. Multi-terrain combat method. Sure enough, he only knows how to fight and kill. Blackclaw curled his lips. Kingpin immediately teased. "Some people seem to have submitted a theory of fighting and killing at the beginning, right? But, oh, okay. Tulip, what is your theory?" Blackclaw quickly changed the subject. Mine is this." Tulip took out the registration form a little embarrassedly. Lin Ke and the others looked over. "Flower arrangement?" Blackclaw exclaimed. "What does it mean?" As they said that, several people looked down and understood what Tulip meant. "So this is flower arrangement. You have come up with something new." Blackclaw touched his chin and thought. "Painting, music, sculpture. Will there be flower arrangement in the future?" "Great, Tulip." Lin Ke also smiled and said, "It's really good. Nature is beautiful in itself. If you use artificial methods to match nature, maybe there will be better results." Flower arrangement was also widely circulated in Lin Ke's previous life. Of course, many people think that it is the art of Zhao Rishi, so they hate it. But in fact, flower arrangement is one of the traditional arts of China. Everyone knows where the culture and art of Zhao Rishi came from. Therefore, it was quite surprising for Lin Ke to see that the Tulip Marquis actually thought of making flower arrangements. When he was in Fassa, he saw that the Tulip Marquis was very interested in flowers and plants, so he casually mentioned it. Unexpectedly, the Tulip Marquis actually made something now. The Tulip Marquis took out his own flower arrangement from his space ring, which immediately attracted everyone's attention. This flower arrangement, it's interesting. Very good creation. They are all ordinary flowers? Why? Why so many whys? An ordinary knife can also kill people. It's reasonable for ordinary flowers to have magical fluctuations. Do you want to listen to what you are talking about? Several people watched the flower arrangement and naturally discovered the mystery. Some ordinary flowers, through a certain combination, actually played a special spiritual role. If it was Lin Ke's previous life, This spiritual effect would generally make people feel bright. At most it would make people feel shocked. But now, this flower arrangement has a kind of effect that makes people calm. And the mental power is also constantly recovering, although it is very little. Excellent. Lin Ke praised. This is actually the effect he wanted. I'm not talking about flower arrangement, but people like Marquis Tulip, who have made a name for themselves with their hobbies. I won't talk about whether he has magic or not. Even if he doesn't have magic, as long as he has the pleasing and soul cleansing paintings of his previous life, it's enough. I'm very satisfied to get Lin Ke's praise. Marquis Tulip smiled embarrassedly. Others naturally saw the use and potential of Marquis Tulip's flower arrangement, so they congratulated him. Philosophy and art are the two peaks of human civilization. Marquis Tulip's flower arrangement art is already a small monument, and everyone present can naturally see the value and potential of flower arrangement art. By the way, Lin Ke, I haven't asked you yet. You recruited so many people to create a doctrine, so the salary is not a small amount. The Marquis of the Giant Sword sat down with a serious face, and his eyes showed concern. Do you want me to support you? I have made some gold coins over the years, all thanks to you. The other old friends were the same, especially Ackley, who smiled and said, it's okay to give you all the money in my family, but remember to pay me back when you make money in the future. Me too. Black Claw patted his chest. Brothers have been able to get up all these years thanks to you. If you need help, just tell me. Lin Ke was quite moved by this scene, but still shook his head. It's okay, I'll think of a way to make money. Chapter 658 Plain Development. Writing novels, drawing comics, writing books, painting, composing music. After listening to Lin Ke's way of making money, the Marquis of the Giant Sword pondered for a moment, and continued to ask, what else? Finance, entertainment, industry, technology, business. Lin Ke continued, these are all things I'm good at. When everyone heard this, they immediately knew that Lin Ke had an idea. You must know that Dahuang City is now absorbing all the wealth in the world. In terms of being rich and making money, naturally no one can compare to Lin Ke. Of course, this is very difficult. Wealth is actually just a reflection of productivity, demand and other aspects, not the amount of those general equivalents. Lin Ke smiled bitterly and said, but since you have chosen this path, just do it. But you don't know? The salary obtained by the theory is paid by me, not Dahuang. Every penny spent in Dahuang City in the future is very important. It earns a lot, but it also invests a lot. If there is 100 schools of thought, the financial pressure will be too great. As he said, Lin Ke shook his head. In the previous life, personal wealth and national wealth rarely compete with each other. After all, the same is true for personal strength and national strength. Have you ever seen a person who can destroy a country? But in nothing, it is possible. Not to mention destroying a force, even destroying a world is possible. Therefore, it is normal for the people here to be rich enough to rival a country. After hearing Lin Ke's words, everyone was silent. Although they knew that Lin Ke was rich, such a rich man's words still made people care. But Lin Ke, the person I admire most is you. Earl Kingpin praised at this time. When we old guys have no money, we all think about opening up the secondary plane. On the contrary, you basically don't live on the secondary plane. That's true. Marquis of the Giant Sword also nodded slightly. You said that, when you have no money, you also think about attacking the secondary plane. I didn't expect you to not consider the secondary plane at all. No. Lin Ke shook his head at this time and said, I have been thinking about attacking the secondary plane. Inevitable. The increase in wealth is not simply an increase in gold and silver coins. The most important thing, as Lin Ke thought before, is an increase in supply and demand. If there is no demand, create demand. And if there is no supply, create supply. The first thing is to create demand. The simplest way to create demand is to create people. The more people there are, the greater the demand. The people here in Nasenjad refer to various intelligent life forms. He went to attack and develop the secondary plane, and the needs of the people in the secondary plane would naturally be met by Dahuang City. The other is similar to creating demand with technological products. No one had the need to buy chargers and headphones before, but it is different with mobile phones. This is to create new demand. Of course, to meet the above needs, there must be corresponding supply. Labor creates value, everyone works, and then creates supply through labor, and also meets demand through the money earned from labor. The whole situation will be revitalized in this way. So the best way, Lin Ke has also thought of it, that is to occupy the secondary plane. There are many ways to occupy, whether it is a direct barbaric invasion like other nobles, or like Fasa, it's alright. Oh, you are so kind, and you are also going to explore the secondary plane? The Marquis of the Giant Sword smiled, drank 2 sips of juice, and then said, how about it, do you have a target plane? If not, I will give you one. As a Marquis, he naturally has secondary planes. Although not as many as Lin Ke, there are still a few. No, there are still blank planes that have not been developed. It is troublesome for Dahuang City to develop those large planes, so I will go to attack those planes. Lin Ke laughed and said, you poor guys, keep them for yourselves to develop well. Andrew's leg. Come, change fruit wine. Get him drunk. This lord really needs to be drunk. At midnight, Lin Ke returned home drunk. I haven't been so drunk for a long time. The last time I was drunk was when I was in my 30s. I didn't expect that I'm in my 20s now. Back home, Lin Ke's magic power was running, and the drunkenness in his body disappeared. Plane development. Lin Ke sat on the sofa, his eyes shining. How did those capital forces make their fortunes in the previous life? Bloody primitive capital accumulation. Lin Ke is much more merciful than them, but he can't avoid the step of primitive capital accumulation. Plunder. Occupy. Endless star elms, endless planes, endless resources. Indeed, Lin Ke has to think about it like the traditional Nasan nobles. Go to war. Meeting old friends today has also made Lin Ke determined to some extent. Nasan nobles are all fighting, so there is no need for him to be unsociable, right? Since he has made up his mind, Lin Ke began to prepare. It is not impossible to conquer the secondary planes by himself. Some small secondary planes are estimated to be only level 15 or 16 at the highest level. However, medium and large planes are more difficult. One of the reasons why Lin Ke didn't want to conquer the secondary planes was that it was easier for Nasan to comprehend the laws. The laws of the secondary planes were rougher and lacking than those of Nasan. Just like English translation, the more known words are given, the easier it is to know the meaning of a paragraph. The secondary plane is like giving 4 or 5 known words, while Nasan has the full text translated, so it is easier to comprehend. Of course, Lin Ke is just like this for now. After reaching the legendary level, he will have to go out more often to see the laws that Nasan does not have all lacks, and have new insights. Thinking of this, Lin Ke got up and walked out of the house and went to the city hall. He wanted to check and see which planes under the Great Wasteland City are now facing difficult battles, and he happened to go to those planes. By the way, it would be better to choose some planes with wars, so that he can absorb souls for his clones. After checking the records at the city hall, Lin Ke had to say that the chariot of the Great Wasteland City has indeed rolled forward and no one can stop it. At the grand event when Fasa came back, Lin Ke auctioned a lot of shares in the secondary planes, but so far they have not been fully developed, and new planes are being auctioned again. Several small spaces have been added to the Great Wasteland East Station, but it is not enough. Lin Ke even asked the Mist Banshee to reinforce the surrounding space to prevent the space from bursting. 90% of the soldiers in the Great Wasteland City have already dispersed and joined the plane development army. Unless they are called, they will not gather together. This includes the army of Father, which has joined the development of the Great Wasteland City and performed quite well. Therefore, after Lin Ke checked the plane development information, he compiled a form and came to the plane teleportation array alone. However, at this moment, a cry was heard outside. Cry. Chapter 659. My god. Little Lucky? Lin Ke smiled. At this time, Little Lucky was flying from a distance. It would fly back from the lava swamp to find Lin Ke every now and then. They had been raised together since childhood, so they had a good relationship. Little Lucky passed the flying mount driving license test, which is similar to a vehicle driving license. In addition, many people recognized it, so no one stopped it. However, there were many people at the Great Wilderness East Station at night. It was okay if some people didn't know it, but everyone who knew it knew that it was Lin Ke's mount. Lin Ke also waved his hand, directly used the optical skill to hide Little Lucky's body, and then flew out. What's wrong, Little Lucky? Lin Ke stood in the air and touched Little Lucky's head. Unknowingly, Little Lucky had reached level 15 and possessed the elemental bodies of thunder and fire. Its body was fiery red, and its appearance did not look like a phoenix except for the color, but more like a thunder sea eagle. A fiery red giant eagle. I have to say, it's really handsome. Brother, are you going to explore the plane? Little Zingarn's eyes flashed with excitement. Will you take me with you? Little Zingarn was like a cousin who came to the house and asked his brother that question. Brother, do you have games on your phone? Lin Ke smiled, touched Little Zingarn's smooth and warm feathers, and said, do you want to go too? Let's go together. Although Little Zingarn can't help Lin Ke much now. After all, Lin Ke can fly by himself. But in fact, its strength is still not weak. With the blood of the holy life of the phoenix, and the blood of the top magic beast Thunder Sea Eagle in his father's generation, it can be said to be very powerful. Although the level is only 15, Little Zingarn is estimated to be able to fight against the 16th level professional. There is also a gap between magic beasts and professionals, and the gap is greater as you go up. Little Zingarn can fight against the 16th level, which is already very good. Put it in the secondary plane, with the difference in all aspects, it is possible to fight against gods. And, raised from childhood to adulthood, Lin Ke, as an older brother, is also like a father, so naturally he has a deep affection for Little Zingarn. It would be nice to take Zingarn out for some fun. He was going to the secondary plane to open up Wasteland, not to fight in the Holy Life Alliance, just to relax. So, Lin Ke brought Zingarn, who was nearly 2 meters tall, to a teleportation array and teleported in. Endless jungle, green insect tribe. Ah woo woo ah ah ah. A loud howl came from a hill, and the jungle was suddenly filled with continuous howls. People, all people, one by one, figures rushed out of the woods and looked into the distance. These people had wheat-colored skin, colorful paint on their faces, wearing animal skins and grass clothes, with long and short hair, and most of them were dirty. They looked like primitive people. At this time, a mammoth was rushing in the distance, knocking down huge trees one by one, and its destination was the hill behind these primitive people. Ang, the mammoth, which was 14 or 15 meters tall, let out a long cry. Its two thick tusks were inserted directly into the soil like a plow, and then lifted up. A large piece of land and several large trees were carried away, as if a meteorite fell from the sky. Big fireball. At this moment, a strong man stood up among the savages, pointed his hands at the sky and shouted. Suddenly, a huge fireball appeared in the sky and then collided with the piece of land. Big fireball, ice arrow, bone spear. The primitive people followed closely behind, one by one, opened their hands, and aimed at the mammoth, launching one attack after another. For a while, the surrounding magic element were turbulent. The mammoth could not resist so many attacks at all, and was finally pierced through the heart by a thin vine, and then was submerged in a series of magic, and finally fell down with only a whine. Dead. Dead. My god's teachings really work. Praise my god. Praise magic. This elephant is finally dead. These primitive people shouted loudly, and surrounded them happily. Two strong men lifted the charred body of the giant elephant on the left and right, and then walked towards the hill. The strong man at the beginning also escorted others on both sides. After a while, everyone returned to the hill. On the top of this ordinary hill, a 4 or 5 meter high red giant eagle was resting, combing its feathers. At the same time, there was a small stone house on the top of the hill, and under the stone house were caves, which extended to the foot of the mountain. There were dozens of caves. There were some primitive women and children working in and outside these caves. At this time, the primitive people who went out came back carrying the giant elephant that was almost level with the hill. Boom. 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 The ground was shaking, attracting people on the hill to look over. That's the earth mammoth. Killed. Killed. Oh 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 oh. Chief. Chief. My god. My god. No matter old people, children, or women, they were all very excited. The mammoth, called the earth mammoth, was smashed to the ground and shook. Come out and deal with it quickly. The strong man shouted loudly, and his voice was heard throughout the mountain. So, women and old people came out one after another, holding sharp blades made of stone in their hands. Some people went to collect the blood of the mammoth, some people went to cut the fur of the mammoth, and some people went to make a fire. The primitive people dealt with the body of the earth mammoth in an orderly manner, and it was very skilled. And the strong man who looked like a chief walked towards the stone house on the top of the mountain. As he walked, he raised his hand to condense a ball of fire and lit it on his body. The flames burned fiercely, and his blood-stained animal skin clothes were burned away in an instant, and some bloodstains and old dirt were also burned. However, his body was not affected, including his hair, which was intact. Then, he casually picked up a grass coat that was drying in front of a cave, and put it on, and then came to the door of the stone house. My god, the light of magic is shining in the green insect tribe, and the earth mammoth has been killed by us. The majestic man knelt on one knee in front of the stone house, lowered his head, and his eyes were full of enthusiasm and excitement. The door of the stone house opened, and a young man wearing a bright red loose wizard robe walked out. The young man had long brown hair draped over his shoulders, and he gently held a deep red metal scepter in his hand. He looked natural and casual, and at the same time, exuded a kind of nobility. Oh. To be able to kill the 4th level earth mammoth, it seems that besides you, someone among you has already broken through to level 5. The young man smiled and said, its earth domain has been broken, right? The majestic man still lowered his head, and only the young man's boots could be seen. But his tone trembled, obviously extremely excited. Yes, that's right. The earth domain has disappeared. Chapter 660, Earth Mammoth. The young man in front of him who was called God was naturally Lin Ke. After coming here for about a month, Lin Ke had already figured out the general situation of this plane. This is a very primitive and new plane. There are only 2 kinds of intelligent life in this plane. One is human and the other is giant beast. Lin Ke chose this plane to open up because it is a medium to large plane. Although there are no urgent problems to be solved, it is also a plane that he can afford to open up. At the same time, because of the primitiveness of the plane, there may be many surprises here. Primitive civilization means more possibilities. It's like a blank sheet of paper. If you have any ideas, you can implement them here in advance, and then learn lessons by observing the direction and development of primitive civilization, so as to influence another civilization. Any system, thought, culture, etc. can completely use primitive society as a test field. After cultivating it, you will know what kind of flowers and fruits some seeds can bloom. Therefore, Lin Ke randomly chose a primitive tribe that looks ordinary, and became the god here. This is the primitive tribe of humans. After the initial exploration of the strong men in the wilderness, this world discovered that in addition to humans, another intelligent life race is actually a giant beast. That's right. The huge beasts with various races are called behemoths. What earth mammoths, what titan pythons, what howling moon wolves, etc. Different races of various races strangely formed the behemoth clan. And Lin Ke also found that there was a reason why the strong man from the great wilderness, who came to this plane, divided the behemoth clan into one of the 2 main intelligent life races. These behemoths have unique characteristics. One of the characteristics is that they are huge enough. Almost every behemoth is more than 10 or 20 meters tall, and it is even possible to be taller and bigger. If it were just like this, there would be nothing special. But the most important thing is that the strong man found the similarities among these behemoth clans. It is similar to humans. Even if they are different species, at most there is a phenomenon of geographical isolation. In essence, the chromosomes are similar. And these behemoths are the same. The discoverer is a 16th level biologist. He has explored the genes of behemoths and found similarities in genes. This is a very remarkable discovery, because it stands to reason that the trace should be what the genes are, and the manifestation should be what they are. For example, if you have fish genes, then you are very likely not to grow into a chicken. Of course, it is just a high probability. However, the biologist was busy with work, and there were many planes waiting for him to explore, so he only recorded it briefly, hoping that later people would discover it. After a month of exploration, Lin Ke finally found only one point. That is the domain, or the power similar to the domain. The domain is a power that only legends have, and it is an application after the lore is maturely comprehended. Whether it is the domain of God or the domain of legend, it is extremely powerful. Once, the Deep Blue Grand Duke used the domain to suppress Lin Ke, who was holding the wand of annihilation, and achieved a certain effect of time stillness. Even if it is not the Deep Blue Grand Duke, some other legends are also very powerful. The combination of domain and vision can achieve an extremely strong effect. Of course, Lin Ke's vision is very strong now, but unfortunately he does not have a domain. The genes of the giant beast clan are exactly related to the domain, at least it seems to be the case at present. In other words, the reason why these giant beast clans can be called the groupies, because they have the same genes in their bodies. The gene about the domain. So, Lin Ke finally chose this giant beast plane. Looking at the leader of the Green Worm tribe kneeling on one knee in front of him, Lin Ke said with a smile, "Chen, you still can't comprehend ice magic?" "Yes, my god." The man called Chen said awkwardly, "I'm only interested in fire magic. Isn't it a pure magic element constitution?" Lin Ke nodded slightly. Generally speaking, the magicians of the Nasan tradition just have a preference for affinity. For example, a water magician is just not as good at casting fire magic as water magic, not that he can't cast it at all. But the people in the giant beast plane don't seem to be able to use a single magic. Fire is fire, and water is water. Well, from now on, you will only learn and use fire magic. Lin Ke said to Chen, the same goes for others. If it is a single system, learn a single system, and if it is a dual system, learn a dual system. Okay. Chen's eyes lit up. In addition, you should expand quickly and bring other tribes under your command. Lin Ke waved his hand. The human race needs to unite. The giant beast tribe here has a domain in each area, and the center of this domain is the most powerful giant beast. As long as they are in this domain, the ability of the giant beast tribe and certain aspects will be greatly enhanced. The most powerful giant beast in the area, where the Green Worm tribe is located, is the Earth Mammoth not far ahead, which has the Earth domain in its body. However, although the humans in the giant beast plane are suppressed in the domain, their physical fitness is at the level of physical sanctification. Lin Ke has investigated and found that their talents are not bad. Although they cannot be directly judged like enlightenment teacher, they are generally above the average level. This chief can even be compared to the strength of a professional of level 8 or 9 in terms of physical strength, and he learns magic very quickly. If they were only level 8 or 9, they would not be able to take down the Earth Mammoth of about level 12. Unfortunately, after learning magic, the people of the Green Worm tribe made up for the lack of long range, and could completely use the kite flying tactics. Of course, Lin Ke had just used the telescope to observe the battle. Primitive people had no such thing as tactics. They just went all in. However, the effect of magic strengthening the body was also very significant. Well, I'll go take a look at this Earth Mammoth. You can go and get busy too. Lin Ke stepped lightly, step by step from the air to the body of the Earth Mammoth below. The Green Worm tribe members on the mountain saw it and knelt down, chanting, "Praise my god, the great, invincible, and only god of magic. Praise your existence." The primitive people couldn't speak clearly, but they said these few words very clearly. And, they all use the common language of Nasan. As for why, Lin Ke certainly had his own plan. At this time, he came to the body of the Earth Mammoth, and looked at it carefully. It was just an ordinary earthy yellow mammoth. Just looking at the surface, nothing could be seen. So, Lin Ke used the air shield to get a little blood, and a bright white light shot out of his eyes. Skill, microscope. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 661, Mysterious Domain Cells. Skill, microscope. This skill was developed by a scholar in a plant laboratory, and it is very practical. Although it is not engraved in the skill position, Lin Ke can now use a skill or magic with the power that can easily reach the level of a level 15 professional, releasing a special engraving skill. Therefore, after using the microscope skill, The flesh and blood in the body of the earth mammoth immediately appeared in every detail. Hemoglobin, liver cells, muscle fibers, and, looking at it, Lin Ke's eyes suddenly narrowed. There is also a cell wall! Exclamation mark. As we all know, the cell wall is a thicker, tougher and slightly elastic structure located outside the cell membrane, and its composition is a mucus complex. Some species also have a capsule composed of polysaccharides outside the wall, which plays a protective role. The capsule itself can also be used as a nutrient for the cell, and can be used by the cell when the nutrition is lacking. But the most important thing is protection, and the most common cell wall is still found in plants. You should know that the cell wall is a hard and thick wall outside the cells of plants, fungi, and bacteria. One of its functions is to maintain the shape of the cell and enhance the mechanical strength of the cell. Plants can maintain a relatively stable external form because they have cell walls. Animals are called animals because they do not have cell walls and their bodies can move freely. If animal cells have cell walls, then the animal's body will not be able to move freely, and the animal will become a plant. The cells in a certain system or organ in the body of this earth mammoth actually have such a tough cell wall. It seems the composition element of this cell wall are still soil with complex components. Lin Ke stretched out his hand and lightly tapped, and another skill was used. Skill, chemical equation. This is a skill that Granny Zisei developed based on the chemistry knowledge he taught. In simple terms, the function of this skill is to explore the fundamental element of a certain substance, that is, the fundamental molecules and atoms. But, the air trembled slightly, and a white light shot out from Lin Ke's fingers, and focused on the blood in front of Lin Ke. Suddenly, the corresponding information appeared in Lin Ke's mind. Granular minerals, organic matter, water, oxygen, silicon, aluminum, iron, calcium, magnesium, titanium, potassium, phosphorus, sulfur, soil, complex composition, or ordinary soil. Some cells in the body of this earth mammoth have cell walls, and the composition of the cell walls is actually soil. You know, in Lin Ke's previous life, the main component of the cell wall was cellulose, which formed the framework of the cell wall, and contained other substances. It can also be seen under an electron microscope that this framework is composed of layers of cellulose microfilaments, referred to as microfibrils. Each layer of microfibrils is basically arranged in parallel. With each added layer, the orientation of the microfibrils is different. Therefore, the arrangement of microfibrils between layers is intertwined into a network, and the space between microfibrils is usually filled with other substances. And what Lin Ke has explored and seen now can be found. The cell wall of this cell is obviously soil element arranged together in some mysterious arrangement. The fire element and light element before, and the earth element now. Lin Ke stood in the air, thinking quietly. A month ago, when he first came, he explored it and killed a few behemoths that wanted to eat him. Two of these behemoths are regional behemoth lords like the earth mammoth. The bodies of the two leaders were similar to those of the earth mammoths. One was a giant python with a glowing body, and the other was a saber-toothed tiger that spit out flames. Their bodies were also like the earth mammoths. The cells in the heart were all made of cell walls, and the composition of the cell walls was related to their respective forms of expression. Interesting. Lin Ke felt that this discovery might give him another surprise later. But now, Lin Ke was not going to show up. There were no gods in this plane, but its ruler or the strongest had never appeared in the world. Therefore, Lin Ke was also prepared to stay put, slowly explore, slowly open up the wasteland, and hide behind the scenes. He believed that this plane without gods must have secrets. This was also the consensus of the strong men of Nasam. Abnormality, for the weak, means instability and danger. And for the strong, abnormality means surprise. Wait until I find you, Lin Ke whispered, and then returned to the stone house to continue meditating and comprehending the laws. Naga Plain, a small island somewhere. What? You found another? No, you found another Naga? Soraka exclaimed. Rasha, I really don't understand you. Do you have a Naga attracting physique? At this time, Soraka, Rasha and others had just come out of the water, all wet. The difference from before was that their hair was like seaweed, one strand after another, and it returned to its original state after coming out of the water. That look was exactly the same as the Naga's body. I don't know. Risha came out of the water, sat on the reef next to him and smiled helplessly. His body shook, and all the water droplets on his body turned into water vapor, and his wet body immediately dried up. Maybe it has something to do with mentality. Shabby shot out of the water like a swordfish, and then landed steadily on a reef not far away. He smiled and looked at Soraka. Little Naomi, since you knew the mysterious effect of the Naga tribe, you no longer see them as equals. How do you say that? Oh, that's how capitalists see leaks. TSK. Soraka curled her lips. I'm not like Uncle Jack. As she spoke, little stars appeared in Soraka's eyes again, and she said, come on, Uncle Shabby, that is an effect that allows ordinary people to breathe and survive underwater. If it were you, wouldn't you be tempted? Even my brother would be tempted, right? PFFT, PFFT, nonsense. At this moment, another person also jumped out of the water. It was Silas with black hair and black pupils, Risha's roommate. Lord Lin Ke is so great and selfless. Even if he wants the hair of the Naga tribe, he won't breed them on a large scale like you said. Silas argued. TSK, my brother is very evil-hearted, I tell you. He might even let Granny Zase research hair growth agents. Soraka laughed, then looked at Silas teasingly. He might even make a fully automatic shaver. Sometimes I really doubt whether you are his biological sister. Shabby said speechlessly. We have the same father but different mothers, but we are not biological. Soraka picked her nose in a very provocative manner. A beautiful girl picking her nose. That kind of picture is very shocking. But Soraka was brought up in a pile of Warcraft by Lin Ke since she was a child, so this is quite reasonable. Okay, I wrote down everything you just said. Chapter 662 Naga Plane. Their conversation was recorded. Everyone looked behind Soraka. Gabrielle's head slightly emerged from the water, her golden hair swaying like a chilled headfish with bubbles. In Gabrielle's hand, the photo stone was emitting a faint light, obviously recording something. Gabrielle. Soraka screamed and jumped into the water with a splash, trying to grab Gabrielle's photo ball. Gabrielle naturally put away his things and swam to the deep sea. Seeing the two girls playing and fighting, everyone smiled. At this time, Xiaoguoran also emerged from the water and then said to Risha, there are now 15 members of the Naga tribe who are willing to accompany us to the Great Wasteland. Let me confirm again. Do you think you can apply for a research site and research funds? Risha nodded. Yes, if it is reasonable and appropriate, it can be approved. Then it seems that the Naga tribe has a place to live. Xiaoguoran smoothed his wet hair and shook off the water. But if it is not approved, we should report it to Lord Lin Ke. However, several people knew that if they reported it, the money that the Naga tribe could earn would not flow into their pockets. It is likely that Lin Ke will send someone to collect it, and after collecting it, it will belong to the official assets of the Great Wasteland City. Although Soraka can also ask Lin Ke for it, no one present wants to go through that method. At best, they are just exploring, and the results of the exploration can obviously be discovered by others. After all, it is not a difficult task. Therefore, they need to strive to use and possess their own exploration results. Now it seems that only hope can be placed on Risha. I just don't know what the Naga gods look like. Risha sighed. I haven't seen the gods of the secondary plane yet. The power of the Naga mother may be comparable to our legends. Silas' eyes showed longing. Legend. I don't know when we can become legends. Bang. Shabby gently knocked on Silas's head and laughed. Legend? Did you meditate today? Haha. Silas immediately hugged his head and said aggrievedly, I meditated. But the blood is too slow to digest. If only I had better talent. In addition to Risha, Shabby and Silas have the best relationship, so they often play together. After a month of getting along, they are also very familiar with each other. But just as they were chatting and gossiping, a flying fish-like Naga suddenly emerged from the water not far away. The Naga had wings on her back, and the seaweed on her body fluttered gently. She looked like a beautiful young woman. Monsters are coming. Fiahu Naga was panicked. So many monsters. Risha and the others stood up immediately and looked at each other. Monsters. There is only one kind of intelligent life in the Naga plane. That is the Naga clan. But the Naga clan, who are peaceful by nature, are not good at war, so they are often regarded as a tonic by wild beasts. You know, the entire Naga plain is made up of the ocean. There are countless Naga seeds and Naga essences in the ocean, but there are always only a few that can be combined by chance. And under this combination, the Naga clan also has some innate talents of this clan. For example, they are naturally familiar with water and are amphibious. Risha and the others only need to eat a strand of Naga hair to obtain similar weakening abilities and become familiar with water. If it is other sea creatures, it may strengthen their understanding, affinity and control of the ocean and water element. Therefore, there is a reason why the Naga clan is so rare. Because including the Naga god, the Naga mother, who is the god of the Naga tribe, they don't have much ethnic concept. They have grown up alone since childhood, so they are not social intelligent life, but solitary. No one cares about anyone else. Even the gods will only protect their believers in some ways. In addition, whether the monsters are intelligent or not, they all want to eat Nagas. Therefore, the Naga tribe is very rare. However, the scarcity is also compared with the humans in Nassim. In fact, there are not many Nagas, but they just don't like to fight. Of course, not liking to fight is equal to being timid in a certain sense and under certain circumstances. So, when these Nagas encountered something, they directly threw it to Risha and others. Moreover, this flying fish Naga is still an 8th level professional, but not as brave as Gabriel. But since it is his nature, Risha and others will not say anything. Several people hurriedly entered the water again and swam forward with the flying fish Naga. The sea is warm, and the projection of the sun-like star in the sky is emitting heat. The flying fish Naga swam in the front, and behind them was an arrow formation with Soraka as a peak. Soraka was in the lead, and on both sides were the two killers, Shabby and Zayaguran, who were looming. Further behind was Rishad with a faint white light in his eyes, and finally Gabriel and Silas, who were responsible for protecting Rishad. Soraka was extremely weak. As Lin Ke's sister, she had been infused with countless natural treasures since she was a child. In addition, Lin Ke took her out to fight monsters all day long, so she was most suitable to be a forward. Risha had the highest level, and the mathematician had unparalleled mental destructive power, so she was most suitable for the single turret mage. As for the two killers, Shabby and Zayaguran, one was good at a powerful and heavy blow to kill, and the other was good at speed. While cleaning up the enemies on the flank, he could also protect Risha. As for Silas and Gabriel, both of them were not weak, scholar, professionals, playing the role of assisting and protecting Risha. The most critical output was still Risha. The team swam forward, and above them, there was a young man sitting upright. In the young man's arms was a somewhat old wooden chessboard, with horizontal and vertical lines on the front of the chessboard, and the words "The First Chess Competition Champion Souvenir, Lin Ke Gift" were engraved on the back. This person was Yale. Suddenly, a weapon spirit wearing a wizard robe and looking like a magician appeared in the position of Shi on the chessboard, hammered his chest at Yale and said, "Master, these monsters are simply insulting your wisdom." The weapon spirit's voice was full of grief. "Master, your talent should shine against the millions of troops of the Holy Life Alliance, instead of playing house with these little guys." Yale glanced at the weapon spirit. "Next time I take you to see Master Lin Ke, you tell him in person. Ahem. Young people are the future of the great wilderness, and young people are the hope of the great wilderness." The weapon spirit coughed twice, and then became righteous. Protecting young people is our profession. Chapter 663, Megalodon. Boom. Yale stretched out his hand, flicked the head of the weapon spirit with his finger, and shouted softly, "Look quickly. Those monsters are coming." Immediately, the chessboard began to change, and the light and shadow of chess pieces appeared one by one. These chess pieces were not arranged like chess, but like chess pieces, they were divided into black and white pieces. On Yale's side, there were only a few small white pieces, and on the other side, there were dense black pieces. Chaotic, aimless. Yale just took a look, shook his head lightly, and waved his hand, and the light and shadow of the chess pieces on the chessboard disappeared. Although there were many monsters, their marching was disorderly, and it didn't look like a group behavior at all. In other words, it didn't look like there was a being like the King of Monsters directing this battle behind the scenes. Simple, swarming chaos is completely different from the chaos that seems scattered, but actually contains mysteries. Sometimes, a certain military formation can even greatly make up for the lack of level and number. This is his confidence in winning with fewer people and defeating the strong with the weak. At least, Yale had Lin Ke's guidance in theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge from the battles he had fought in the secondary planes. So now he thought that this group of more than 200 monsters would definitely not be able to defeat Rashad and his men. Even if there was an octopus monster at level 16, it was still no match for him. With the magic device that Lin Ke gave him to hide his aura, Yale naturally had a safe position. He just had to ensure that Rashad and his men did not suffer any casualties. While Yale had already taken a general look at the situation, Rashad and his men were still moving forward without noticing. Even though Rashad was a powerful mathematician, his combat was still a little weaker than some specialized combat professionals of the same level. In terms of sensitivity, he naturally could not detect Yale, but only vaguely felt a little when he entered this plane. Of course, at that time, Rashad only thought that it was a visit from the local gods, but he did not expect it to be Yale. Rashad's attention was now focused on the place a few kilometers away. There is a level 16 monster. Everyone be careful. Rashad frowned slightly. The level 16 magic beasts of the Naga plane are equivalent to the level of Nasan professionals of level 12 or 13. He is not afraid. But, there are too many of them. In addition to level 16, there are magic beasts of various levels from level 1 to level 15, and even more beasts. How can there be so many? Level 16. Soraka turned around and exclaimed, then realized that it was level 16 of the Naga plane, so she breathed a sigh of relief and waved her hand nonchalantly. Leave it to me. A level 16 magic beast, nearly 200 other magic beasts and more than 400 ordinary sea beasts. Rashad continued. Soraka's raised hand froze, then scratched the back of his head and said with a silly smile, brothers, let's go together. Zyogawaren glanced at Soraka helplessly, then looked at the flying fish Naga in the front and asked, why did you provoke so many magic beasts? The flying fish Naga swam while crying, they want to eat us. No. If they want to eat, they don't want so many magic beasts to eat just a few of you Nagas, right? Such a big battle, it's not like they have dozens of Nagas here. Shabby felt something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. He didn't have the strong overall view of Yale, and he wasn't as high as Rashad. However, as a killer, he often had an intuition similar to that of a beast, to seek benefits and avoid harm. Something's wrong. Shabby frowned, and the thick lizard tail behind him stirred the water uneasily. He rushed out quickly, and then said without looking back, I'll go check the situation. Everyone knew that Shabby had the intuition of a killer, so they didn't stop him, but thought about what Shabby felt was wrong. After a few minutes, they finally met a few Nagas who were fleeing in a hurry. Save me. Help. It's terrible. These Nagas were more timid than each other, and they were born to run away. I don't know why this tribe can become the only intelligent race in this plane. Maybe it's because of their amazing seeds and essence that cover the entire ocean? Rashad looked at the clam Nagas, water snake Nagas and other Naga tribe members running over, and still had some free time to think about it. But the next moment, he didn't have that free time, because they saw the magic beasts coming with an undercurrent in the distance. The leader was a huge blue-black shark, a level 16 shark magic beast. Get ready. Soraka's eyes also became sharp for a while. The killing has begun. She licked her lips subconsciously, and her mouth was full of salty and fishy. Then she immediately thought of the reproduction method of the Naga tribe, so she quickly spit out the seawater again. Ugh. The others didn't have the leisure to care about her movements, and they were all on full alert. The body of the little nut immediately sank to the bottom of the sea. As it sank, its body was fading and then disappeared, as if it had merged into the seawater. The magic power in Rashad's body was boiling, and in just a moment, there were 7 or 8 dazzling formulas on his head, and at the same time, his body was wrapped in a vague equilateral triangle symbol. Skills, triangle stability. Skills, Reindescartes coordinate system. Skills, Kalfas formula. Powerful magic fluctuations emanated, and Rashad's eyes seemed to have turned into a super powerful high beam, with an amazing aura. Compared to Risha, the magic fluctuations of Silas and Gabriel were much smaller, and they were simply incomparable. At this time, all the Nagas ran, to not far behind Risha and the others, and were even afraid to continue running, but were stopped by Gabriel. You all wait behind, otherwise there will be more monsters, if you run too far. Gabriel's eyes shone slightly, and he waved to stop them. Are you kidding? It took so much effort to find so many Nagas, and what are they doing if they all run away? At this time, Soraka had already rushed forward. Soraka had a character on her head, and held a triangular energy blade in each hand. Without any defensive means, she rushed in like a warrior. Sometimes I wonder if this woman was given dragon blood by Princess Lin Ke. Silas muttered. Nonsense. Soraka must have the blood of a shield warrior. Look how brave she is. Gabriel next to her teased. At this time, following Soraka the mathematician, there was a visible mental shockwave. The mental shockwave was strange, and contained the powerful effects of all the skills of Risha, aiming at the 16th level Warcraft Megalodon. To catch a thief, first catch the king. Chapter 664, Naga Gods. Bang! A muffled sound came from the sea, and a huge wave was raised on the sea surface. In just a moment, the shark's brain was shattered by Risha's mental attack, and its eyes burst out. A level 16 monster shark, in front of Risha, mathematician, who is not good at fighting, didn't even last a second. This is the confidence that Nassan dared to call himself the plane in the infinite subplane. Unable to withstand a single blow, a large amount of white light burst out of Risha's eyes, as if a god had descended to the earth. He waved his hand casually, and a large string of sharp triangular lines flew out like bullets, piercing the bodies of those monsters. And Soraka had already rushed into the herd, and the triangles on her arms were shining, like a Valkyrie. Risha, I told you to give me the biggest one. Soraka roared in dissatisfaction, and her hands moved quickly, killing those fish monsters one by one. While shouting, Soraka faced 3 huge octopuses. Level 15 monster. The tentacles of the 3-headed octopus were slippery, and Soraka's triangular blade could not cut them off immediately. Moreover, her furious state, Soraka narrowed her eyes, paddled with her hands, and pushed back a little. The 3-headed octopus in front of her had scarlet light in its eyes, and it had obviously lost its mind. You know, let alone Warcraft, even ordinary octopuses have smarter brains than the same type of marine creatures. And the 3-headed octopus in front of her had no agility in its eyes. Losing its mind. Falling into frenzy. If hard doesn't work, try soft. The on her head rushed out a shockwave and aimed at the 3-headed octopus. Mathematician skill. This skill is one of the essential skills for many beginners in the school of mathematics, and it is generally the first skill they learn. There are many reasons. In addition to the fact that this skill comes from Lin Ke, there are other factors, such as this is the first step to recognize numbers, knowing finite and infinite. In addition to this, a very important factor is that the mental impact of this skill can increase with the increase of the professional level. This increase, at present, seems to be the same as the characteristics of which is infinite. But, ripple spread in the water, and the impact visible to the naked eye shot straight out, and hit the body of the octopus. In an instant, the octopus's brain was shredded into pieces. TSK, it still depends on the mental attack. Soraka waved her hand disdainfully, but in an instant, a layer of secret text was attached to the 2 triangular blades in her hands. Suddenly, she began to chop melons and vegetables again. In the dark, sharp knife lights were looming, and a monster died in just a flash. Whether it was a fish gill, or an eye socket, or a joint, where the knife light cut, it was often just a tiny wound that could kill a monster. Killer skill 1-hit kill. This is the little nut harvesting in the dark. Together with Silas and Gabriel, this group of sea monsters was quickly solved. Just as Yale expected at the beginning, although there were many monsters, they were basically like chickens and dogs. It didn't take long for Rashad and his team to finish them off. The Nagas in the distance also gathered and looked at Rashad and his team with admiration. The strong will be respected in any plane. Too powerful. Human. Is this a human? We Nagas are not that powerful. It's a bit scary. The Nagas were whispering there, obviously admiring Rashad and his team. But Rashad and his team still had things to do, so they didn't say much. This sea area was dyed red, full of blood and residue. Rasha and his team immediately used various magic and skills to clean up the surrounding sea area. By the way, where is Shabby? Soraka suddenly remembered something and looked around, but didn't see Shabby. By the way, did you find a problem just now? Rasha pondered at this time. Just now when my mental power impacted the monster, I felt a violent force. It's not that they haven't driven away monsters for the Nagas, but in the past, there were only one or two, and they were all normal. Unlike today, such a group of people were crazy and seemed to have lost their minds. Otherwise they should have dispersed when the first level 16 Megalodon died. The monsters are intelligent, and it is their nature to seek benefits and avoid harm. The strongest one is dead, and these monsters should have fled out of their survival instinct instead of being so fearless, unless there is another mastermind behind the scenes. And the battle of these monsters does not look like there is a mastermind behind the scenes. It is completely chaotic. Yes, they are all crazy. Soraka dispersed her skills and frowned slightly. Normal monsters should not be like this. Soraka has been with monsters for many years and grew up among monsters when she was a child, so she naturally understands it. While they were discussing, Xiaoguoran, who had just sunk into the darkness to kill, also showed up and frowned, saying, "These monsters have very dull senses, and they seem to have no feeling for murder Sora, and they seem to have no sense of pain." No sense of pain. Dull sense. In addition to the violent state discovered by Soraka and others, it seems that there is indeed a problem. It seems that these sea monsters are chasing Naga, not because of the survival and eating instinct, at least not entirely. Everyone subconsciously looked at Rasha. Without a doubt, if Soraka is the person with the strongest fighting consciousness here, then Rasha should be the smartest person here. So much so that Soraka directly let her brain degenerate. As long as Rasha is around, she is too lazy to even think. Let's wait for Shabby to come back first. Rasha felt the gazes of the crowd and hesitated. If the local gods are targeting us, then maybe we should be ready to run away at any time. Gods? Everyone looked at each other. But, the gods shouldn't be that stupid, right? Gabriel said uncertainly. These monsters are simply insane. If the gods target us, then we should have a hard time fighting. Gods, before Nassan became the hegemon, including Nassang, were synonymous with the strongest in the Nassan plane group. Rasha can handle one god. But if many gods come together, then there will be no dregs left. Indeed, I've heard that the gods of the secondary plane have a way to label invaders as enemies of the plane. Gabriel also spoke up at this time. Perhaps these Nagas were implicated by us and have been labeled as traitors of the plane, so they attracted the pursuit of monsters? Impossible. Unexpectedly, Soraka waved her hand and denied their speculation. If it were the gods, we would be beaten out as soon as we came in. Moreover, I have read some books that said that if the gods are powerful enough to control the intelligent life of a plane, then he is at least the master. Chapter 665 Chaotic and Weird. Overlord? Everyone exclaimed. In their opinion, Rashad was already strong enough at level 15. If they were small country hooligans, Rasha could be said to be a county level section chief. And overlord? At least he was the helmsman of a force. No matter whether it was a large or small force, his status was always there. Overlords of the secondary planes could only be rivaled by gods or legends of Nassan. Of course, some extremely powerful professionals might be able to rival overlords of the secondary planes at the starlight level, but that was a minority after all. As for Rashad and his people, let alone Overlord, they couldn't even resist a god who was good at fighting. What I mean is, if a god is so powerful that he can make other intelligent beings attack us so mindlessly, then he is at least Overlord. Soraka waved her hand. If he is Overlord, he might as well kill us with the finger in secret. Why do that? So, Rashad took over the conversation tacitly. So, there are three biggest possibilities. Three possibilities? Everyone was stunned, wondering why Rashad's brain was so useful. Isn't there only one possibility? How could there be three? But Gabriel didn't notice this, but looked at Soraka, then looked at Rashad, and saw how well they understood each other, and suddenly felt jealous. So she asked, which three? Soraka, did you and Rashad think of the same three? As she spoke, Gabriel's jealousy became stronger and stronger, and turned into confusion. Really? Didn't Risha care about her at all? In front of her, he actually flirted with Soraka like this. Risha didn't notice it at this time, but he looked at the teammates in front of him and felt a sense of annoyance in his heart. Too stupid. Too stupid. Do I need to say all this? According to the analysis of the situation, can't we analyze these results? So he frowned and said, there are 3 possibilities. One is that someone is playing tricks on us. The second possibility is that there are special ones among those Nagas who can attract these fish monsters. The third possibility is that these fish monsters come from a certain area and are affected by something. After saying that, he looked at Gabriel with great disdain, then lowered his head and began to think. This look made Gabriel even more jealous. So she looked at Soraka and asked, what about you? What are you thinking? Is it the same as Risha? Is it? Tell me. At this time, Soraka suddenly became extremely excited, as if she had taken adrenaline, and the whole person became excited. Ha ha ha, that's right. Let's go and kill all the monsters in the Naga plane. Enough. What the hell are you doing? We only have this time to complete Lord Lin Ke's mission. Don't waste time, okay? Silas also exploded. His eyes were red, and he was obviously extremely angry. Everyone looked at him at once, very surprised. Silas has always been the one with the best temper, and sometimes he is even a little timid. But at this moment, Silas's black hair stood up in the water, and it was obvious that he was furious. And Xiaoguoran also felt something was wrong. Strange. So strange. She looked around and suddenly felt that her teammates were all wrong. Gabrielle was usually a quiet girl, and it was said that she was still the goddess of many classmates. However, her affection for Risha was probably seen by everyone except Risha. But now Gabrielle's eyes were full of jealousy, grievance, and envy. Yes, jealousy. Jealousy of Soraka. Risha has always been gentle and refined, but today she showed extreme hatred for Gabrielle. But the more he hated, the more Gabrielle was jealous of Soraka. And Soraka was now like a madman. The whole person was in an excited state, as if she was going to rush out and kill in the next moment. As for Silas, this kid's eyes were full of anger, which was a kind of anger towards his origin, family situation, talent and everything else. Jealousy, hatred, killing, anger, all negative. Xiaoguoran's heart shuddered, and her body immediately disappeared in the water. There is an ambush. At the same time, a paper plane made of Azan paper appeared in her hand, and there was a pattern drawn on the paper plane. The red triangle, with knowledge, leader and luck on the top, left and right respectively. This is the noble emblem of the lava family, the lava triangle. Help. Now there is an unknown enemy affecting them, and it may even be the master of the secondary plane. Xiaoguoran, who was hiding in the water, subconsciously wanted to input magic power into it, but the next moment his mind was indifferent and calm. What's the point? Even if Lin Ke was caught, her life would still be like this. In person, after she was rescued by the priest of the Church of the Beginning of Hope, her life was also stolen, and now she is just muddle-headed. Forget it. Xiaoguoran felt indifferent in her heart, and then she was not interested in everything. Extremely indifferent. And the palm-sized paper airplane also fell straight from her hand, fell into a certain water flow, and flowed away with the waves. Even the small nut kernel appeared from the dark, lying calmly in the sea water like a corpse, motionless. Not far away, Risha and the others were still arguing, which was extremely weird. Those Nagas had never seen such a scene, so they hid on a coral reef in the distance and trembled. However, at this moment, the paper airplane that was about to fly away was suddenly taken down by half a palm. The palm was covered with dense scales, and it was shabby. He did not show up, but took out a small yellow flower from the space ring with a painful look on his face. This space ring was given by Lin Ke. Otherwise, with his wealth, how could he afford to buy such a rare item as a space ring? And this somewhat shriveled little flower is his own thing, and it is one of his collections. He carefully held the yellow flower in his palm, and then used magic to isolate the seawater, while injecting magic into it. But, the next moment, the flower trembled, and the 5 petals changed at the same time. The whole flower turned into a drill, and it was suspended in his hand and trembled slightly. Shabby suddenly had an idea. Suddenly, the yellow flower flew out, penetrated the seawater, and aimed at Soraka's head. The energy level of the flower was a full 15th level. And it was the full 15th level of nassing, not the 15th level of the secondary plane. Hit, 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 must hit. Shabby whispered, and then looked at Soraka expectantly. It seemed he was expecting Soraka to be shot in the head by the yellow flower. Chapter 666, Orf's backup plan. Boom. With a loud noise, a wave rose under the sea, and the wave surged. Under the sea. At this time, Shabby looked at the yellow flower that hit Soraka's forehead with joy, and then the yellow flower exploded like a bomb. After the explosion, all the petals turned into powder, and the powder turned into bullets and shot towards Soraka's head. Shabby, what do you want to do? Are you going to kill Soraka? Damn it, we are teammates. Several people in Russia who were in abnormal states shouted one after another, while Zyuguoren took a glance and was not interested and continued to drift with the flow. However, at this moment, a shadow suddenly appeared above Soraka's head. This shadow only had the upper body, and it looked like white hair and beard, holding a scepter of nearly 2 meters in his hand. The shadow was Orf. I'm the king of electromagnetism. The shadow of Aofu uttered an angry voice, stomped the thunderstaff in his hand, and then the whole shadow exploded with a bang, turning into strands of purple electric currents, which instantly spread to a 10-mile radius with Soraka as the center. The electric currents flickered and jumped in the seawater, forming a mysterious circular magic circle. All the lives in it were not harmed, and even the seawater did not change much. It was as if the purple currents did not exist. Soraka, who was in the center, closed her eyes all of a sudden. She gently raised her arms, and the water washed her clothes. The currents also jumped and gathered around them from all directions. At that moment, Soraka's skin was printed with a slight purple color, as if a goddess had descended, and the jumping currents rushed towards Rachel and the others. Zzzz. A series of teeth-grinding sounds rang out, and the currents covered their bodies, and then seemed to be fighting against something. Rachel and the others were unaware and just closed their eyes. After a while, the sound disappeared, and all the electricity came out of their bodies again, returned to Soraka's hands, and then disappeared. Soraka then opened her eyes. Andrew's leg. I was scared to death. As soon as Soraka woke up, the goddess look immediately disappeared, and she became the carefree look of her sister-in-law Lin Ke. She patted her chest, then looked at the others who opened their eyes, and said in fear, I tell you, it was too thrilling just now. Soraka's appearance did not have the abnormal feeling before, and she had returned to normal. While she was talking, the others also opened their eyes, and Shabby and Zyuguoren over there also swam over. We were ambushed just now. Rasha frowned. His hatred for Gabriel just now was very strange. You know, Gabriel is one of his best friends, and he can even be called a buddy. How could he hate Gabriel? At this time, Gabriel's face also turned slightly red, and she looked at Soraka with apology. I'm sorry Soraka, I don't know what happened just now. So if it wasn't for, it's okay, it's okay. Everyone knows about the things between you and Rasha. We are good sisters, so let's not talk about that. I'll continue. If it wasn't for Shabby. Soraka didn't pay attention to Gabriel's previous abnormality, but continued to talk. It was indeed Shabby who did a good job just now. After Zyuguoren came over, he looked at Shabby with admiration, and then looked at Soraka. If he hadn't hit you with the precious dusk flower, I think we would have all fallen. That's right. Soraka's eyes lit up. If it wasn't for Shabby's dusk flower just now, I think we would have almost fought. I didn't know that I had a backup plan left by Grandpa Orf in my mind. Haha, haha, haha. Soraka laughed with her hands on her hips. It's mainly because I have a discovery. Shabby scratched his head calmly, but his tail was almost swung into a propeller, and it was obvious that he was extremely happy. Discovered? What discovered? Everyone was immediately curious. It wasn't someone who attacked us, or it should be said that no one attacked us at all, but there is something wrong with these flesh and blood. Speaking of business, Shabby also became serious. He turned around and pointed behind him, saying to everyone, over there is a sea trench, there is something going on there. As he said that, Shabby took the lead in swimming in that direction, and everyone hurriedly followed. But one person stayed where he was. Silas. Rasha discovered it, so he asked, what's wrong with Silas? Silas was different from the previous eccentricity. The black-haired boy seemed a little silent and lowered his head. Hearing Risha's voice, Silas just shook his head and replied, "Nothing, let's go." So everyone swam forward in a hurry. At this time, high in the sky, Yale was sitting cross-legged in the air. He looked at the sea and frowned slightly. What was that just now? When Shabby took out the dusk flower, he almost made a move. The dusk flower can kill beings below level 15, and it is a one-shot kill. However, he also noticed the abnormality of Soraka and the others, and Soraka had a backup plan left by Orth, so he did not move. Fortunately, it was Shabby who discovered the problem in the end, not Shabby, so the trouble was solved. But Yale also felt something was wrong. If it could silently affect Risha, a level 15 Nasan profession, mathematician, then it could affect the gods of this plane. Do the gods know about this kind of power? Or is this the power of the gods? Yale looked at the sky above his head and whispered, "Sir Orth, when will you come back from the kingdom of the gods?" He was responsible for watching Risha and the others, while Orth went directly to find the gods of this plane. Yale had no choice but to follow Shabby and the others to check the situation. After all, Orth must not be worried. If there is a master in this plane, and he fights with Orth, it is estimated that the whole plane can see it, just like Fassa before. What should be concerned about are the little guys below. At this time, Yale was sitting cross-legged in the air, flying with Risha and the others. He took out a lot of things from his space ring, and the magic power in his body was boiling, ready to help Risha and the others at any time. Because if the negative emotions that affected several people just now came from the gods, Risha and the others probably couldn't beat them. After all, the strongest Risha was just a mathematician who was not good at fighting, so they had to rely on him. As they moved forward, Risha and the others finally came to a long and narrow sea trench. Looking at the deep black sea trench in the distance, Risha and the others stopped. Chapter 667 Weird Fish Bones. The trench in front of them was too big. The width alone was estimated to be several hundred meters, and the length was so long that there was no end in sight. I remember there was no such trench here before. Gabriel frowned and said, "I've been here before. A few kilometers ahead is where I found Naga last time." Several people thought about it and nodded in agreement. Because they had been here before, they also remembered that there was no trench here before. "Look there." Shabby pointed to the side of the trench. Risha and the others looked over immediately. They saw a skeleton next to the trench, surrounded by a group of dead fish, and various fish bones could be seen under the dead fish. Those dead fish did not seem to have died normally, and their bodies were full of dense wounds. It seemed that they had been bitten and hit before they died. When I came, these fish were not dead fish. Shabby pointed to the fish near the skeleton and said in a deep voice, "When I came, these fish were killing and devouring each other, including the monsters." "Fish and monsters also killed and devoured each other?" Exclamation mark. Risha and the others immediately felt something was wrong. So, the monsters chasing the Naga devoured the flesh and blood of the dead fish here, so they chased them. Risha frowned and said, "But, why?" While Risha was talking, several fish swam over to the fish bones. They were just ordinary fish, swimming normally, but they might have just caught a glimpse of the dead fish from the corner of their eyes. They rushed over quickly, as if they had found a bottle of drinkable Fat House happy water in the desert. Several fish rushed towards the dead fish from the seaweed not far away like crazy. After rushing over, these fish that were just swimming together, like starving ghosts reincarnated, ate up the fish corpses there. It only took a few minutes. Risha and the others watched this scene from the side without saying a word. After the fish finished eating, they immediately became like mortal enemies, opened their mouths and bit each other, killing each other. Gabriel was puzzled, and Soraka beside him also said, "This is definitely not normal. Even ordinary fish will not hunt after they are full. There will be many risks." Indeed. Risha and the others nodded and agreed. "I have heard in the hospital before that some animals seem to have some diseases, such as rabies and mad cow disease." Zioguaran also said, "No, it's not a disease." Risha shook his head and pointed at himself. "General diseases cannot affect us through water flow, at least not me." "When did they just get affected?" "Just after killing those monsters. The flesh and blood of those monsters are soluble in water, and they used magic to clean the water for a long time. It was at that time that they were affected. You know, after eating the hair of the Naga tribe, they did not use magic to separate the sea water, but directly roamed in the sea like fish. Their skin, like that of the Nagas, can breathe in the sea, and the way the Nagas eat is to absorb nutrients from the water. Therefore, Rashab and the others also inhaled the nutrients in the sea water. Just now, when they were fighting with the monsters and cleaning the sea water after the fight, the Nagas were afraid and were a distance away from them, so they were not affected. Only a few of them were affected. Of course, after the blood was dispersed, it is estimated that a large area of the surrounding sea will also be affected. But they don't have time to worry about these now. While they were talking, the fish that were just biting each other had died. They didn't know whether it was because of exhaustion or injury. After the fish died, the dead bodies were just placed on the fish bones they had just eaten, as if waiting for the next batch of fish creatures to come and eat. It was exactly the same as when Rashab and the others first arrived here. So, just now those monsters came here to eat these fish bones, and then for some reason they were attracted by the Naga and chased them, which led to what happened to us. Little Guoran concluded, and then the cat's tail shook uneasily again, but there are doubts. Why were they attracted by the Naga? And why did more than 200 monsters come together before? While they were discussing the fish bones they changed. When Rashab and the others were observing, they had used magic to isolate the water flow, to prevent it from becoming abnormal again. You know, Shabby had been using magic to protect his body, because he discovered the abnormality before. However, what they didn't know was that it was because of their magic fluctuations that the fish bones there seemed to be changing. I saw strands of extremely dark color like thick asphalt emerging from the huge fish bones bit by bit. In just a few seconds, the fish bones were dyed black. Rashab and the others immediately noticed this and were horrified. Something is happening. Several people retreated quickly. They knew that this inexplicable change was definitely not a good thing. Shabby and Zyuguoran also took out the 2 paper airplanes with the Lava family logo from their space rings. If something goes wrong, stop this plane travel immediately. However, at this moment, a majestic aura appeared in the ocean, and the aura was stirring. Gods. These are gods. The indigenous gods of the Naga plane. Rashab and the others stopped for a moment, thinking about various ideas in their minds, but on the surface they did not move too much. They were among the best in the plane travel course. And the first rule in this course is that when encountering the indigenous gods of these secondary planes, the best way is to show humility, respect, worship, etc. The one who taught this course was the famous, former fallen priest, now the goddess of finance and the dean of the School of Finance, Kanako. He knows this best. And his warning to students is that if you know the local customs, use the local customs to express reverence, faith and humility. If you don't know the local customs, the best way is to pretend to faint with excitement, or to kneel down with excitement. Of course, this is when you are weak. If you are strong, just pretend he didn't say anything. At this time, although Rashad was also a strong team, he still had teammates. So, one by one, they changed from calm to excitement, and then to ecstasy. Soraka covered her mouth with both hands, as if she couldn't believe it, and then she closed her eyes and lay there. Rashab pinched her chest with both hands on her heart, as if she was too excited, and her body became stiff like a piece of wood floating in the water. Gabriel was almost the same. Silas did not move, and just closed his eyes and fell over. Only Zyuguoran and Shabby, 2 old actors who have been in the arena for many years, shouted "My lord," and murmured impossible in their mouths, and finally fainted after a gradual change of emotions. Then, what are you doing? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 668, Lord of the Storm. Renadika looked at the children who seemed to have fainted in front of him, and his eyes widened. Oh my god. Andrew's leg. What are you doing? Exclamation mark. Renadika immediately thought of how he had boasted in the kingdom of the mother of Naga about how heroic and outstanding his descendants were. What was the result? Damn, Seeing a god from a secondary plane, they were directly scared, and they pretended to be scared. Renedika was about to vomit blood. But the mother of Naga and other gods in the Naga plane didn't think so. They felt a coping strategy that practice makes perfect from Soraka and the others fainting. A coping strategy specifically for gods like them. These juniors, haha, haha, they are pretending. I'll go call them. Renedika laughed twice with an embarrassed look on his face. The mother of the Naga said solemnly, "No, sir, I think this kind of vigilance and practicality is very shocking to me." Several other Naga gods also nodded in agreement. When Soraka and the others heard the familiar Nathan common language, they all did the same thing. That is, they squinted their eyes and secretly observed. Especially Soraka, who recognized Renedika's voice directly. So she opened her eyes wide. You know, the strong are very sensitive to gazes. They think their actions are small, but in the eyes of the gods, they are as obvious as shitting in public. Not to mention Soraka. Mr. Renedika. Soraka shouted, I miss you so much. Woo woo woo. I feel so wronged. I'm so scared. It's so dangerous here. In an instant, Soraka became pitiful, crying like a pear blossom in the rain, as if she was bullied. Renedika. Gods. Renedika was helpless. Who did you learn this from? My sister-in-law Lee. Ah, what did you learn from whom? Woohoo. Save my uncle Renedika. Soraka was stumbling for a moment, and almost told the truth, but changed her words in an instant. And the Mr. Renedika just now was directly upgraded to Uncle Renedika. Okay, Lika's tricks don't work on me. Renedika waved his hand, and then waved to the sky. Ofu, Yale, you two little guys come down too. As he said that, Renedika turned his head, and looked at the fishbone just over there. The whole fishbone had turned black, and it was also infiltrating other fishbones. It seemed that the other small fishbones would also turn black. The gods of the Naga plane surrounded this place, as if they were guarding against something. Risha and the others woke up from their fainting after hearing what Renedika said. Renedika stood in front of them, looking at their puzzled expressions, and explained, this is a crystal wall hole, which was created recently. I didn't pay much attention to it, but Renedika pointed to the dark fishbone and said, but something came over. The fishbone was the thing. Everyone understood immediately, but Soraka was still curious. Then how did you get over here? You. Then how did you get over here? You. This weak life dared to call you in front of a strong man like Renedika? Exclamation mark. The gods were invigorated, their consciousness was running fast, and their godheads were almost burned out. They immediately imagined more than 10,000 scenarios, all of which were how Soraka died. Only one of them was that Soraka was fine. Of course, the probability of this was too small, so small that it could be ignored. Because even the most gentle and powerful plane like the mother of Naga would punish the life that offended her. What's more, Renedika is a strong man who is much stronger than the mother of Naga, and he doesn't seem to have a very gentle temper. However, they thought of Renedika's attitude all along, especially his love for Soraka and other young people, which made them feel, maybe this strong man really won't be angry. As a result, I came here to be a nanny. Renedika said nonchalantly. And Yale were all driven here by your brother. Hey, think about it. I just came back to take a look. How did I get on your brother's pirate ship? Strange. As he said, Renedika touched his chin, and seemed to be thinking seriously there, and the golden holy shovel armor on his shoulder whispered in his ear. Risha and the others instantly understood what Renedika meant. Lin Ke let them in, not only with Shabby and Zioguoran, two old veterans, but also secretly called Yale, who was outstanding in both politics and military affairs, who was powerful and had good research ability, and Renedeskats, who could fight against the master. Just entering a secondary plane, so many big guys were called to protect them. Risha and the others looked at Soraka speechlessly. At the beginning, Soraka said that she came in just for tourism. So many big guys accompanied her on a tour. It was simply amazing. But fortunately, they did some serious work later and made a lot of progress. Otherwise it would be really embarrassing. Soraka's cheeks also blushed, and then she blushed and said solemnly, well, thank you Uncle Renedeskats. Thank you Grandpa Orth. Thank you Brother Yale for your protection. Our hard work on this trip has been very fruitful, and we also feel that we are growing vigorously, thanks to you. Hard work. Very fruitful. Growing vigorously. Rashad and the others were almost embarrassed to death. Well, how about we not talk for now? Gabriel was beside Soraka, gently pulling the hem of Soraka's clothes, his face flushed. While they were talking, two figures entered the sea one after the other. One was the white-haired AOF, and the other was Yale holding a chessboard. Behind AOF, there was a fish god, tied with something like a fishhook. Storm. Storm, what's wrong with you? Storm Lord. This is the powerful Storm Lord. These aliens are too powerful. The gods couldn't help but change their faces when they saw the fish god led by AOF. That's a powerful god of level 25. Here, the Storm Lord controls storms and ocean currents. The body of this Naga was attached to a dogfish when he was young, and later he became the regional overlord by accident, collecting the power of faith, and became the god of storm. As a result, now, although he is a dogfish, he is not a dog. Why is he being led like a dog? Gods of the Naga plane? Aofu raised his eyebrows, shook the fishing line that led to the Lord of Storm and said, he probably thought I was a treasure and wanted to bite me. I caught him in the kingdom of God. Do you have any objections? Aofu didn't notice that he sometimes spoke more and more like Lin Ke. That is, he spoke very cool. Chapter 669, Battle of Honurus. Do you have any objections? Do they dare to have any objections? None of the gods spoke, and they were all silent. The Lord of Storms is disrespectful to you, and we can't do anything about it. In the end, it was the mother of Naga who stood up and replied to Orf softly. In fact, all the gods knew that even the mother of Naga would probably not be able to beat the old man holding the thunder, let alone the handsome uncle who looked like an ordinary person. The strong man from the other plane is too strong. And just as they were talking, a strange wave suddenly came from the fishbone. Suddenly, Renedika and Orf exclaimed, Honurus? Master? The two of them looked at each other and saw the solemnity in each other's eyes. Honurus. This is the name that Emperor Wumian and his men gave to that main plane, which means twisted and weird. The main plane of Honurus, a place of twists and weirdness. The breath coming from the fishbone is not from other secondary planes, but from another main plane. And it was the main plane that was hostile to them. Yale, take Soraka and the others back first, and tell Lin Ke about the situation. If Lin Ke is not here, tell John. Rene Descartes' lazy look disappeared, and he became serious. Yale knew the seriousness of the matter and nodded, yes. Then he looked at Soraka and the others. Let's go. It's too early for us to fight between the main planes. Yale threw his chessboard lightly, and the chessboard expanded instantly, covering Soraka and the others. Soraka and the others also knew the seriousness of the matter, so they all obeyed the arrangement, without too many words or too many actions, and followed orders. Then, Yale took out a chess piece with the word Rook written on it. One step, one plane. Yale sat cross-legged on the chessboard, with a huge amount of white light gushing out of his eyes, and looked up to the infinite distance. Then, he held the chess piece in his right hand high up, and then dropped it heavily on the chessboard. Tap. There was a light sound of a chess piece falling, and then Yale's magic power quickly flowed into the chess piece. The chess piece suddenly broke apart, and with a great force, it wrapped around the chessboard, smashed the space next to it, and revealed the colorful astral turbulence behind the astral crack. Then, the chessboard carried Yale and Soraka and others directly into the astral turbulence, rushing away. This scene shocked the gods. Only beings above the gods can create space cracks here, and they must be gods with medium or higher divine power, which means they must be gods above the 23rd level of the secondary plane. As for the astral cracks, at least the mother of Naga must be used, and it must be done with full strength. You know, this is just an ordinary medium secondary plane. And just now, Yale wanted to escape with the strength that could smash the astral cracks, and he wanted to escape with these descendants. The gods panicked. Especially for those gods with weak divine power, the first thing they thought of was not to escape to other planes, or to seek help from Renedika and others. Instead, they wanted to return to their own kingdom of God, and strengthen their lives 100 times. Stay. Of course, no one dared to speak, no one dared to raise objections, and no one dared to ask, including the mother of Naga, because they felt the special temperament of Renedika that was looming and elusive at this time, and knew that this strong man had no time to care about other things now. If they disturbed Renedika, they might be in danger of their lives. Ofu, we will guard here. At this time, Renedika was relieved after seeing Yale and everyone else escape with the escape magic device specially made by Li Guanmabi. If he and the master of the main plane can fight 50 to 50 with Soraka and others, he can only fight the master 19 to 19. He is 1, the enemy is 9. When the power does not reach a certain level or has some special characteristics, anyone is basically a burden to the master level, and legends are no exception. For example, when the Emperor Wumian fights with others, adding an orf is no different from adding a stone, because the opponent can be crushed with one finger anyway. Just like a fight between ordinary humans, if one of them has an extra might, it is harmless to the result. Unless the might is highly toxic and can poison the opponent to death, or the might has sharp teeth and can bite the opponent to death. For Renedika, the gods and Orf are not special, but they are instrumental. Come here and listen to my command. Renedika pointed at the gods, and Orf naturally stood in front of Renedika and obeyed his command. The master of the opposite side is coming, and only Renedika can compete. But the gods of the Naga plane didn't know what happened at this time, and they were all confused. Respected Lord Renedika, what is going on? In the end, it was the mother of Naga who stood up and asked. To put it simply, our hostile forces are coming. That is also a main plane, as powerful as ours. Renedika briefly explained, and then said softly, you can choose to stand on our side. With the kindness of that little guy Link, you will probably have a good life. Of course, if you want your godhood to be shattered and your kingdom to perish now, you can also stand on their side. As he said, Renedika pointed to the fishbone that was getting darker and darker. The gods immediately understood. I want to follow the great god Link. Yes, Master Renedika, please give me your orders. The gods spoke one by one. Renedika whispered, don't dawdle, just stand according to my prompts, and then burst out your magic power. Prompt. What prompt? Before the gods could react, they felt that their divine bodies seemed to be slightly controlled by something, wanting them to go in a certain direction. This control could be shaken off lightly, but the gods knew that this must be a prompt from Renedika. So they rushed in a certain direction according to their body's feeling. Some gods broke through the sea surface and flew into the air to stand still. Some gods hung upside down on a small island, and some gods curled up in the sea water. Their standing was chaotic and weird. Even Orf and the Lord of Storms held by Orf went to a certain place. Orf turned into a thunder and rushed out, and stopped under the crystal wall, then took out the thunder staff and stood quietly. And under the clouds and many kingdoms of gods below him, the mother of Naga was already standing quietly. Well, very good, very obedient. Renedika's eyes emitted a strange light, and then he lay down slowly, as if there was a bed on the ground, and then stretched hard. The Lord of Honores? Seeing that Wumian was so happy to fight, I hope it will be really interesting. Chapter 670, Thunder of Law. The Naga plane was calm and peaceful, except for those gods with strange shapes. Today, it can be said that all the lives in the Naga plane were frightened. One by one, powerful beings that were rarely seen in thousands of years appeared in various places in the Naga plane. The surging breath, when they whistled past, made all kinds of lives tremble. The sky has changed. Something happened. Countless lives can feel that something must have happened in the Naga plane. Even lives without the concept of planes can know that the place where they are must have changed. As for those strong people, anyone above level 15 can feel the changes in the plane. That's the gods in action. The Naga plane is not big. After the gods took their positions and Renedika seemed to fall asleep, the Naga plane returned to its superficial calm. Not far in front of the sleeping Renedika, the fish bones had become as black as ink, and the texture seemed to be undergoing some changes. When this change reached a certain critical point, the fluctuations emitted by the fishbone suddenly stopped. But the black fishbone trembled slightly, accompanied by the trembling of the trench not far away. In this trembling, the trench slowly closed in the middle, and the fishbone rolled into the gap of the trench. The trench, which was hundreds of meters wide, closed in just a few minutes, leaving only a small gap, and at the last moment, the fishbone fell into it. Boom. Just as the fishbone fell in, the crystal wall of the Naga plane suddenly made a loud noise. This sound was so loud that normal life could not hear it, and those who could sense it were all beings who could comprehend the laws, at least above level 15. However, under the perception of these gods driven by René Descartes, the loud noise was weakened countless times. They immediately knew. Another main plane, here it comes. What happened in the past month was so bizarre that the Naga gods felt a little overwhelmed. This was the first time in a god's life that he encountered such an existence as a main plane, and he encountered two at once. If one of the parties did not look quite normal, at least there was nothing embarrassing. The gods of the Naga plane would probably cry. And now, the abnormal party has come. The Naga gods are not stupid, they can naturally feel the weirdness of the fish bones, which contain a lot of negative energy and laws. Compared with René Descartes, who is powerful, but not cruel or weird, it is obvious which side the Naga gods should choose. And just when the Naga gods were worried, the Naga plane ushered in changes again. After the loud noise just now, the dark fish bones suddenly turned into black ash in the gap, and then attached to the nearby water, gradually forming a crack that seemed to be dried up land, cracking with strands of threads. Then, a pair of dark hands stretched out from the gap. Human hands. As soon as these hands appeared, they emitted extremely terrifying fluctuations, and as soon as the seawater gathered, it was immediately crushed into water molecules, and then turned into nothingness. It seemed that the seawater would be turned into nothingness just by approaching the hands, which caused a large amount of seawater to be completely annihilated in the process, causing the ocean around the crack to immediately become turbulent. At the same time, a sense of guilt appeared on the hands, as if the hands were formed by the convergence of countless evil forces. The hands had 6 fingers on one hand and 7 fingers on the other, and they also had human nails. There were densely packed steel needles inserted between the fingers, some with 1 or 2, and some with more than 10. Some purple, green, blue, and orange blood flowed out from the fingers, which looked extremely disgusting. Moreover, these hands had no skin. You could see a trace of blood vessels and thin flesh on the hands, but you couldn't see the skin. It was just this pair of hands, one on the left, and one on the right, holding the two sides of the crack, and then tearing it out fiercely. Crack. However, at this moment, a thick purple lightning bolt from the sky suddenly struck down, breaking through the turbulent sea water and directly striking the crack and the hands. Ofu. At this moment, the gods only felt a mysterious force of law acting on themselves. Their god heads, hearts and lower abdomens shot out colorful divine powers. These divine powers continuously gathered at the mother of Naga in the sky, and then were transformed into the power of Orph in an inexplicable way. This thunder of law was so mighty that the gods felt that, if they stood in front of it, they would not be able to hold on for even a second, and they could not even consume a fraction of the power of this thunder. And this purple thunder of law struck the hands just like that. Roar. A beast roar that was not like that of a human came from the crack, and the hands of the unknown existence retracted, and the crack shrank a little. At this moment, the black steel needles in the fingers of the hands fell off one by one, and then flew out with a colorful blood, like nails that were nailed into the void around the crack. Boom boom. The crystal wall of the Naga plane trembled slightly, as if wailing. At the location where the steel needle was nailed, in the void where the sea water repeatedly annihilated, there were also strands of blood flowing out from the location where the steel needle was nailed. It was colorful and insoluble in water, but there was a sense of flowing out. Once the steel needle was nailed, the crack no longer shrank. Taking this opportunity, the black hands tore it again. Finally, the gap that only 2 hands could pass through was torn open at once, and a huge, bloody meatball came out from it. The ink black hand stretched out from the bloody meatball. At this time, the hand suddenly retracted into the meatball. The meatball suddenly turned from red to black, and at the same time, the flesh buds were waving wantonly. Those flesh buds were like the roots of trees, and like leeches in a mud pond, frantically looking for places to attach. At this time, countless law thunders poured down from the sky, and the sky within a radius of 10 miles was like a forest of thunder and lightning. There are 2 points in this thunder and lightning forest. One is at Aofu, who is located below the crystal wall, which is the launch point. The other point was above the meat ball. Countless purple lightnings fell from the sky like a waterfall. At the same time, the element of the entire plane became thinner at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the laws became obscure at a very fast speed. And those gods seemed to have become the energy conversion hub, continuously converting the laws and element of the entire Naga plane into energy to supply Aofu. And Aofu also became a faucet of the thunder of the law. The endless power rushed into his body, then converted into the thunder of the law, and then poured out. In less than half a minute, the crystal wall of the Naga plane and the countless laws on it became at least 10% thinner. It's the beginning of the month. Please vote for me! Exclamation mark. Chapter 671 I think you don't exist. In just half a minute, Orf felt as if his body was stepped on by a million mammoths. No, it was a million dark dragons, and they were all proficient in physical combat, and they were all legendary. After firing this shot, Orf was exhausted. However, this series of thunders that seemed like a waterfall was also very effective. In other words, for the master level, such damage was considerable. The surface of the unknown meatball master in the Honurus plane was directly charred after being baptized by the thunder of the law, and at the same time, painful roars came from the inside. That was the thunder that shot directly from the crystal wall above hundreds of thousands of meters in the sky to the bottom of the deep sea. Powerful, bright, and cleansing thunder. Under this bombardment, ordinary gods, even Nasang, would probably be wiped out. Not to mention the bones, even the godhood would not be left. In other words, the master level can resist it. Orf collapsed, and even sucked up a lot of magic crystals and order potions stored in the space ring. After the launch, Orf took out the magic tool for saving his life, the light bulb. In other words, this light bulb has left and right passages, and there are magnetic poles as experimental light bulbs for cutting magnetic flux lines. That's right, this set of tools that are fused to experiment with electromagnetic induction phenomena was given a lot of feedback by the Nasang crystal wall system, and it has a very special effect. It is similar to Sophie's first 5-line music score of Nasang, which has magical effects. After taking out the light bulb, Orf said to the mother of Naga not far away, "Come and hold me." He would not easily believe in the indigenous gods, even if the mother of Naga was very kind and gentle in the rumors. The mother of Naga over there was also a little soft at this time. You know, Renard Desker asked them to stand at the nodes of each plane for a reason. While being used as energy transmission and converters, their own divine power was also sucked away. If they were not in their own plane, and in a peaceful plane, otherwise there would definitely not be enough power of faith in their kingdom. You know, if the power of faith is transmitted across the border, it will consume a lot. And if they are in a war plane, like Phaser, the gods other than the sky god often fight endlessly, so there will not be much power stored. The Naga clan, the main intelligent life in the Naga plane, loves peace and does not like fighting. They are even regarded as delicious food by monsters. Therefore, there are few fights between these gods, so they can pour out so much power this time. It's just that, although it's a big show, it only hurts the meatball in front of the master. The gods can feel that the plane where they were born has become unclean after the meatball drilled in by force. This plane has been marked with Nasang's mark, just like a small meteorite outside the solar system, which becomes a member of the solar system after being captured by the gravity of the sun. Since the Naga plane was watched by the eyes of the Nasang strongman, it was equivalent to being branded by Nasang. At this time, the meatball was in pain, and the gods felt that a boundless pollution broke out from the meatball in an instant. This pollution is not only applied to the spirit, but also to the body. In just a few seconds, countless lives suddenly felt that all the flesh and blood around them were delicious. No matter whether the owners of the flesh and blood were their fathers, mothers, lovers, or descendants, they just felt that it was delicious. So delicious. So tempting. So delicious. Countless lives suddenly attacked other lives around them. The killer whale who was leading his children to swim in the sea was bitten by his own children in the next moment, and then bit back. 2 swordfish that were about to mate suddenly started a life and death fight, with scars all over. Sea snakes and accompanying electric eels wrestled on the seabed, accompanied by the spread of toxins and electric shocks. Even some Nagas who survived alone suddenly began to gnaw their arms, chew their fingers and eyeballs. Too many. Tearing, gnawing, chewing, sucking, blood, flesh, blood vessels, internal organs. In just a few seconds, countless corpses appeared in the ocean of the entire Naga plain. These corpses contain all kinds of emotions. Anger, indifference, jealousy, arrogance. All kinds of emotions on the flesh and blood gathered towards the meatball. All the gods can see that, if this meatball continues, not to mention, whether the master will be resurrected, it is not certain, whether the Naga plane will still exist. The death of all life in the Naga plane can only turn into nutrients for the awakening of this meatball. At the same time, it can also turn into the Ragnarok of the Naga plane. The root of the gods lies in faith. Before mastering the power of the master, most gods can only rely on faith to survive. If all the believers die, the gods will not be far from the day of extinction. The same is true for the Naga plane. Therefore, the gods became anxious all of a sudden. Destruction. They feel the destruction. At this moment, a gentle groan resounded throughout the plane, even overwhelming the manic roar. It's here so soon. Why do I feel like I just laid down? Lin Ke, who said just laid down and actually just laid down not long ago, woke up and stretched. He looked at the top of his head with sleepy eyes. The huge meatball accompanied by meat buds was absorbing all kinds of blood and flesh. And it was Lin Ke stretching like groan. Just now that made all life feel peaceful and tranquil. It was so peaceful that I wanted to sleep. Are you the master of what? Are all the masters of the Hanulas plane so weird, ugly and smelly? After Lin Ke slowly stretched, he smacked his lips and yawned again. Then he slowly stood up. The meatball not far from his head seemed to have just discovered his existence at this time. Rip. A circular hole appeared in the meatball, and a rusty steel needle shot out of it, shooting straight at Lin Ke's heart. Oh, you didn't recover well. Lin Ke smiled slightly, and just waved his hand lightly, and the steel needle turned into nothingness. Thank you for your gift. I will keep it in my memory, and remember it forever. Then, Lin Ke chuckled. The mother of Naga has always thought that I was bragging. Then today, let them see the legendary power of Nassim. As he said that, Lin Ke stood still, with a strange light flashing in his eyes. He looked at the meatball and shouted softly, I think you don't exist. Chapter 672 The True Body of the Master. In my memory, in my cognition, in my thoughts, you should not exist. Lin Ke just stood there, and the legendary power on his body naturally rolled up, causing the waves in the sea to roll. Legendary skill. I think therefore I am. The skills after the legend are extremely powerful, not to mention that this is a skill of a level 27 legend. Not to mention, this level 27 legend could have been promoted to the master but didn't. Not to mention, this legend who could have been promoted to the master but didn't was Lin Ke, one of the founders of the idealist school. Roar. The meatball master suddenly shook, and rays of light flashed on his body. It looked like a TV set with a short circuit, looming and flickering. The meatball master is fighting. The flesh buds that stick out from the meatballs, like roots, are dancing wildly, accompanied by evil and terrifying waves. Swish, swish, swish. The meatball cracked open a circular channel again, and dozens of steel needles shot out from it, stained with colorful blood, accompanied by roars that changed from unclear to clear. At percent and amp, percent hash. Ah wow, damn Nassim. I'm a fallen demon. The astral world will eventually merge with me. The voice of the meatball master changed from that meaningless roar to the most authentic Nassim common language in less than a few seconds. As soon as the voice fell, Lin Ke took away the steel needles again. Hey, bring me gifts again. Lin Ke chuckled and said lightly, the more the better. I have a lot of class representatives. When the time comes, I will give them to them, so that they don't have to ask me to give gay-oping points all day long. The meatball master didn't know what Lin Ke was talking about, but just roared again, trying to stabilize his constantly flickering body. In the process, the madly growing granulations also broke inch by inch, but they could only stabilize for a moment. Facing Lin Ke's, it seemed that the meatball master had no way to deal with it. At this moment, Lin Ke's face suddenly changed. He patted his cheek lightly, and the string of steel needles just appeared in his hand. but the colorful blood on the steel needles disappeared without a trace. Honoris's rule power. Rene Ke frowned, and his body suddenly became a little transparent. Honoris's rule power. Just now, Rene Ke felt that the steel needle he had just received had undergone mysterious changes, and the unknown blood silently merged into his memory and perception. The blood carries the rule power of the Norris plane. Seeing Rene Ke's face change, the meatball master shook and made a sound similar to a laugh. However, at this moment, the situation changed again. Rene Ke's frowning expression suddenly changed, and the corners of his mouth slightly raised an arc. The meatball overlord suddenly shook, and the "I think therefore I'm" ripples on his body became more clearly visible, but the meatball overlord seemed to disappear on the spot. Just like when the TV is about to lose signal. First there is a clear image, then a distorted pattern, and finally it turns off. Haha, I was just worried that I couldn't find your rule power. The distortion and mutation are just right for me to perfect my world. Rene Descartes laughed, and his body suddenly expanded a little bit, like a balloon that had inhaled air. If it was the real body that came, Rene Descartes might not dare to be arrogant. But it was obviously just a clone of a certain overlord. The war between the two planes had already begun the moment they discovered each other. And now, they have passed the initial simple preparation period and have begun to contact, understand, test, and investigate each other. Moreover, the power of each plane has also been mobilized, and they have entered a long preparation period. When the distance between the two planes reaches a certain interval, it is the time for the long-lasting water breakout. Now, it is only the initial stage. Unless the timing is right, it is impossible to directly invest high-end combat power of the overlord level. Without knowing that Rene Ke was here, the meatball overlord would at most send something similar to the incarnation of divine power. Otherwise, this medium-sized Naga plane would have been blown up long ago. You know, a large plane like Father can be smashed by the sleepless emperor with a slap, not to mention the medium-sized Naga plane. And Rene Ke's idea is very simple. Even if he sacrifices the Naga plane, he must keep this overlord clone. This will be of great benefit to him in perfecting his own path to domination. Dear Aden% overlord, I will accept your clone. Rene Ke's body continued to expand, and it became more and more transparent as it expanded. In front of him, the trembling of the meatball overlord's incarnation also reached its peak. Then, turn into 2 dimensions. Rene Ke's eyes suddenly became indifferent. After whispering, his expanded body also completely disappeared in the Naga plane. However, the entire Naga plane suddenly shook. The crystal wall of the entire Naga plane suddenly became dim and turned grey and white like a magic crystal that had been drained of power. There was no explosion, no earth-shattering. Aofu, the mother of Naga, and some gods appeared in the astral turbulence in an instant. In front of the astral turbulence, a black spot suddenly expanded, then shrank sharply, and finally turned into nothingness. That was the void of the Naga plane. Crack. Aofu looked ahead anxiously at this time, and the mother of Naga beside him seemed to be broken like porcelain, and cracks appeared on her body like the land was drying up. At the same time, the aura surrounding the mother of Naga gradually began to weaken. The brilliance in her eyes was also dim, and the aura on her body was also weakening inch by inch. So much so that the astral turbulence was able to break through the aura of the mother of Naga in a short time, and washed over her. You know, although the mother of Naga is the master of the medium level secondary plane, she is still a master. For the overlord level, resisting the impact of the astral turbulence is as easy as eating and drinking. Is your kingdom of God broken? Orth frowned. He didn't have much magic power in his body, so he had to shake the light bulb gently. A small string of electric current circled around, like a hula hoop, surrounding the body of the mother of Naga, protecting her from being affected. After all, the mother of Naga will definitely join Lin Ke in the end, so it won't be difficult to protect her. Of course, after the kingdom of God was broken, the mother of Naga, as a non-Nasan god, is expected to be weakened by more than 1/10 that great existence. As expected. Can't we even carry his true body? The mother of Naga stared at the astral turbulence in the distance, which was normal, and muttered to herself. Chapter 673, Skilled Dimensionality Reduction. The real body of the master? Aofu raised his eyebrows. That was what Ke said casually. The truth is that it is something similar to a domain and an anomaly. Just like the situation when the Sleepless Emperor fought with the 30th level master of the Eternal Twilight Plane, the sky was covered and the sun was blocked. Their real bodies are unchanging. If they are human, they are human. If they are Atman, they are Atman. Unless they are changed. Rather than saying that the Naga plane can't withstand the real body of Ke, it is better to say that this is because the entire plane has been sucked dry by Ke. Even the main plane like Nasan can't withstand the battle of the master level, let alone the small medium level secondary plane like the Naga plane. As long as you suck hard, let alone Ke, Aofu thinks that a few more legends can suck it dry. As a subordinate of the Duke of Lava, I can assure you that you can still return to the throne in the future. Aofu comforted the mother of Naga at this time. While he was speaking, the turbulence of the astral world in front of him changed again. The astral turbulence in front of him had some changes, just like a mountain suddenly rose from the river, and a black spot suddenly expanded in the astral turbulence. The expanding black spot also shrank in an instant, and disappeared without a trace. The astral turbulence in front of him did not seem to have changed. However, Aofu looked at the mother of Naga. The Naga plane seems to be back again. A trace of divine power flashed again on the body of the mother of Naga, which was about to break, and the endless power of faith filled her body again. The broken kingdom of God, the annihilated soul, seems to be back again. No, it's as if it hasn't changed at all. It seems that everything he just experienced was just a dream, and his kingdom of God seems to have not changed at all. Not far away, the Naga gods who were specially teleported by Ke were also like this, and they all returned to their original state. They looked at each other again and again, staring at each other, and unable to speak. It's so strange. Although the voices of faith of believers and petitioners could still be heard in the Godhead, they remembered that they had just lost everything in the Naga plane. The artifact that had been disconnected regained its senses. The saints who had died continued their unfinished praises. The star of petition that had been annihilated once again condensed its soul in the kingdom of God. They are back. They are all back. No, they have never left. When the gods were puzzled, their figures were teleported back again. The dignified gods, the existences that mortals worshipped and believed in, were like chess pieces on a chessboard, being teleported and manipulated at will. But when they looked at the handsome uncle in a certain plane of the Naga plane, they did not feel any resentment. Haha, everyone is back. How about it? The Naga plane is returned to you, intact. Ke lazily pointed to the surrounding sea water. There was nothing in front of him, not a single person, but the gods could naturally see him and hear what he said. Of course, the few Nagas not far from Ke who were originally found by Rasha and others and wanted to trick them into entering the Great Wilderness University felt a little strange when they saw the humans in the distance talking to themselves in the sea. Ke ignored the gazes of the little guys and continued, "You Naga planes have done a good job as bait this time. Although it was not your initiative, but unintentional, it is not bad. In the future, I can give you some opportunities to enter and exit the Great Wilderness City. The opportunity to enter and exit the Great Wilderness City may not be applied for by the native intelligent life of Nasang, let alone the secondary planes. There are so many secondary planes in the Great Wilderness City. There are countless people in Fassa alone who want to come to the Great Wilderness to take a look. If everyone agrees, the Great Wilderness Tower will probably be touched by one person and then knocked down. But Ke was in a good mood at this time, so he made a promise directly. Why was he in a good mood? Because he just swallowed the master clone of another main plane. Great tonic. Thinking of the piece of flesh and blood with black gas in his eye think, or in other words, in his consciousness, Renardescats couldn't help laughing. This trip as a nanny was a good one. Sir Renardescats, how did you do this? Orf quickly landed from the sky. Only 10 or 20 minutes had passed since the battle, and Orf's magic power had not recovered much. Who knew that Renardescats had solved the Meatball Master? And he also brought back the broken Naga plane? With Orf's short-sighted legendary knowledge, he didn't know why, so he asked curiously. Following Orf down were the gods and various parts of the Naga plane. Looking at the people who gathered, Rene Descartes lazily touched the golden holy stag armor on his shoulder and laughed. Haha, this is all thanks to my teacher Lin Ke. My teacher, Mr. Lin Ke, told me the concept of latitude. What is latitude? 1 dimension, 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions. Points, lines, surfaces, and solids. That's latitude. I worked on the coordinate system in my early years, and teacher Lin Ke helped me perfect it into a complete coordinate system, with the ability to create 3-dimensional scenes on a 2-dimensional plane like paper. 1 latitude can become 2 dimensions, 2 dimensions can become 3 dimensions, so why can't it be the other way around? Teacher Lin Ke's pioneering thinking, reverse thinking, equivalent substitution, replacement, and other thinking. Under these thinking, I finally created my strongest skill so far. Speaking of this, the originally lazy Rene Descartes couldn't help but feel a little happy, and the corners of his mouth were almost grinning to the back of his ears. He proudly said, "My skill is called dimensionality reduction." Skills, dimensionality reduction. Those gods of the Naga plane began to not understand when Rene Descartes said the first sentence. Later on, it was completely like listening to a foreign book. However, they did understand one thing. This powerful being in front of them also has a teacher, and this teacher is the ultimate boss of these strong men, and there are all kinds of powerful beings under his command. The gods couldn't help but think, this strong man in front of them who can blow up a plane just by showing his true body is already so powerful. How powerful is his teacher, the one who can teach him to create this new magic, the so-called lava lord Lin Ke? Will he kill a plane by sleeping and snoring? At this time, the only one who could understand what Rene Descartes said, nodded, and praised. It's good that your excellency Rene Descartes can comprehend a new skill. But is this skill demanding? Do you want to keep it for yourself, or, skills can be learned from each other. Skills are just a copy of magic. In other words, it's similar to the feeling of turning swords into guns. Haha, of course we all share it. We are a family in Dahuang City, so these things don't exist. But maybe I can go and extort some money? Haha. Everyone, please give me monthly tickets at the beginning of the month. Chapter 674, Identity Card of a Secondary Plane God. A family in Dahuang City? Orf glanced at Rene Descartes and was speechless. Rene Descartes has been with Xiaolin for a long time, and he has become a bad person. What Dahuang City is all about, we are a family, and we are selflessly contributing our skills. Skills can be exchanged for money. In the past, the research institutes and schools of the Black and White Kingdom, such as the materialistic school, specifically use the powerful skills they develop to exchange for money from the royal family. Dahuang City is similar. Whether it is original or practical, whether it is a refreshing style or a traditional innovative style, you can get rewards by submitting it to the major research institutes in the Dahuang Tower. So, now Rene Descartes is just pretending to be a good person. Rene Descartes loves money even more than grannies say, because Rene Descartes likes all kinds of culture and entertainment, but they all cost money. But thinking of grannies say, Orf also has a headache. Therefore, Orf also said at this time, Sir Rene Descartes is indeed one of the best masters in my great wasteland city. Mother of Naga, have you ever considered doing something for a living after entering the great wasteland city? Do something for a living? The gods were stunned. This kind of words, how can it be like asking what kind of business a country relative will do for a living after entering the city? How strange. What's strange? Logically speaking, the mother of Naga and the others can only be regarded as country relatives to the great wasteland city. But what are the mother of Naga and the others? Gods. Even the mother of Naga is still called the existence of the gods above the gods here, and almost all gods believe in the mother of Naga. Because in the final analysis, the Nagas in this positive Naga plane can be said to be blessed by the mother of Naga. Every Naga knows who he believes in when he is born, and will thank the mother of Naga for his nurturing and protection. Such an existence, going to a certain place in the great wasteland city to make a living. It's too inconsistent. At this time, the mother of Naga also replied to Aofu, Sir Aofu, it will all depend on your instructions. She looked like she was at your mercy. Although the other gods were stunned for a moment, they did not react at this time. It is humiliating to be at your mercy, but what else can we do? Resist? If they resist, it is no longer a question of whether to fight or not. If they just reveal their true bodies, their planes will be blown up, and they may be gone with a breath. Moreover, they did not mean to humiliate them. It is easy to imagine that Aofu in front of them said find a living with a natural look on his face. What does this mean? It means that it is commonplace. The gods thought about it, and knew that there were probably many gods from the secondary planes in the Great Wasteland City, and these gods were making a living there, so they said such words. The gods in those secondary planes may not be weaker than them, or even stronger. They are all willing to go to the Great Wasteland City to make a living. Why can't you? The Naga plane? Think about it, and the gods will figure it out. At this time, the mother of Naga asked again, Lord Renedika, what just happened? He made a puzzled expression, expressing his confusion about the phenomenon just now. Of course, what he was puzzled about was not just Renedika's skill, but how did the Naga plane that had just exploded, or that had just been annihilated, come back? That, although the mother of Naga did not finish the question, Renedika still answered directly, it's very simple. I threw the entire Naga plane into my imagination, and remembered it by the way. After eating, no, after I beat up that meatball clone, I can recall it, right? Very, very simple. The mother of Naga fell silent, and Orf understood what they were talking about. Renedika's mind reading could not even resist the 18th level Lin Ke who had all kinds of protection, let alone this little god of the secondary plane. So, the mother of Naga did not ask the question clearly just now, but Renedika could answer it. It is estimated that both sides are already familiar with each other. Naga mother does not need to say many things in full. Renedika can directly know and answer, and Renedika is used to it. As for Naga mother's question, Orf said, it is indeed a person on the side of idealism. What imagination, what memory, what recollection. It does not emphasize the materiality of material truth at all. After asking, the gods stood in place one by one, and the surrounding sea water swayed gently, and the scene fell into a slightly awkward situation. Renedika did not speak, and everyone did not dare to speak. And what about Renedika? After showing off his skills, he has become lazy, squinting his eyes and almost falling asleep. Just like the kind of full and weak look after a full meal. You know, he is still analyzing the raw nature of the master's clone. That is, the small piece of meat. Just like when you are full, the blood is concentrated in the stomach for digestion, so you will naturally become lazy. Orf shook his head slightly, and without waiting for any despots to take control of the situation, he said, let me build a teleportation array now. Later, professionals from the Great Wasteland City will come to issue secondary plane god ID cards and professional ID cards. As for the number, Orf thought for a moment and said, there are only 20 of you gods, but 4 planes with average contributions. Only 10 secondary plane god ID cards can be given, and there are only 10,000 professional ID cards. You need to allocate them yourself. Secondary plane god ID cards and professional ID cards are a kind of identity proof that is different from the ID cards of ordinary citizens in the Great Wasteland City. Only those who have ID cards can apply to go to the Great Wasteland City. Of course, whether you can apply or not depends on the situation, such as the flow of people in the Great Wasteland City, the sufficiency of materials, etc. As for the secondary planes, at least for now, the secondary planes are very eager to come to the Great Wasteland City. Education, medical care, politics, etc. All kinds of resources are better available in the Great Wasteland City. Even if you are born in the Great Wasteland City, your true spirit and soul will naturally be from the Nasan plane. All the secondary planes under the Great Wasteland City are very jealous of this benefit. In Nasang, when meditating, you can naturally absorb more energy than other secondary planes, not to mention that even the laws, rules and fundamental laws you comprehend are more powerful than those of the secondary planes. With the same amount of time and effort, a teacher in one school can only teach 60 points, because the limit is there, and another school can teach 150 points, which is far from the limit. What do you think you should choose? However, seeing the indifference of these gods in front of him, Aofu still warned, this ID card is very precious. I advise you to discuss it carefully. Chapter 675 The preciousness of the Dahuan ID card. Is the ID card precious? The gods didn't care at first, and even thought that they didn't want to go anywhere, and just wanted to continue studying the laws in this plane. Suddenly, they looked thoughtful. Did they make the mistake of empiricism and dogmatism again? Gods, none of them are stupid. Even if they look stupid in the eyes of some people, it is only because of the differences in experience, vision, pattern, etc., especially the difference in information asymmetry. As long as they are given enough information, they can naturally judge whether it is beneficial to themselves. At this time, Orth, as the second heavyweight, is second only to René Descartes. No god will ignore his words. What's more, the Lord of Storms in their Naga plane was still vividly remembered when Orth was holding his hand. Orth's words must be listened to. It seems that the ID card may have mystery that they don't know. Others are not so good, but the mother of Naga can see that René Descartes is in a good mood at this time, and can also see that Orth looks unapproachable, but he should be kind in his heart. So she asked directly, "Respected Lord Aofu, can you explain it? We don't quite understand." So Aofu also patiently said, "ID card, let's put it this way, ID cards normally need to be purchased with Great Wilderness coins, which means that those of you who have just surrendered don't need to. There are already many planes that participate in the mission activities issued by Scholar Great Wilderness every day in order to give themselves a secondary plane god ID card or a professional ID card. The missions issued by Scholar Great Wilderness are not just like those of the Mercenary Association, but include all kinds of them. For example, secondary plane land reclamation, development, and conquest. You have to know that the Great Wilderness City itself is not enough, so how to develop the plane shares that Lin Ke and his friends auctioned off at the auction after they came out of Fassa? Therefore, in order to increase the contribution, or in other words, to earn Great Wilderness coins, the intelligent life of countless secondary planes can only have one way: to accept the mission. Accept the mission, then complete the mission, and then earn Great Wilderness coins that cannot be used in this plane, and then buy a secondary plane ID card when you have enough. After buying a secondary plane ID card, you can apply to go to the Great Wasteland City. Go a few times, make more money, buy a house in the Great Wasteland, and then you can apply for a Great Wasteland Citizen ID card. The process is very tiring, but the final fruit is sweet enough. Like the previous need for Lin Ke's breakthrough, a task was also issued in the Scholar Great Wasteland, and the task reward was enough to buy an estimated 100,000 ID cards. Unfortunately, no one completed it, so this task was cancelled. The same was true when we fought in the forest hut before. The Phaser army also received a lot of rewards, resulting in a large number of Phaser gods and Phaser people obtaining ID cards and buying houses in the Great Wasteland. Suddenly, I became a citizen of the Great Wasteland. After becoming a citizen of the Great Wasteland, you can borrow books from the Great Library a limited number of times, participate in the arena, take the adult college entrance examination, apply for a job, open a shop, and enjoy medical insurance, social security, and pension insurance. There are too many benefits. So, that's how Fassa got the chance. The Sky God even bought precious materials and built an avatar. It is said that it is at least an Ascend level avatar. AOF slowly narrated what he knew and then explained, "Of course, this is just what I know. There are many benefits that I don't know. For example, you may encounter this level of existence in the milk tea shop on the street." AOF pointed to René Descartes, who was lying on the bottom of the sea and looked like he was asleep, and said, "If we have a good chat, maybe he can give you a few pointers casually, and you can get feedback. Oh, by the way, it's Nascent level feedback, not secondary plane level." After speaking, AOF stood quietly, waiting for them to react and digest. The gods already had different expressions. The mother of Naga was also stunned. Benefits. Too many. With so many benefits, even he was tempted. Can we go further? The mother of Naga has long been the head of the family of the Naga plane, and her mentality has long been calm. But now, within this month, his mentality has undergone a drastic change. So, the 4 words further are so attractive. So, the best way is, you should allocate it among yourselves first to avoid conflicts in the future, and then wait for the Scholar Great Wasteland to garrison in. Take more large-scale tasks. Pool the money you earn. Support one person. Let that person buy a house. Get a household registration and a citizen ID card. And then take more tasks. At that time, the person you support will not be limited in the tasks he can take and can take more tasks with higher salaries to repay and support the next plane. This is the first rich to help the later rich and finally realize that more people in your plane will move to the great wasteland city. Aofu said with a smile. After hearing Aofu's explanation, the Naga gods had different thoughts, but they had a general understanding. Aofu looked at the thoughtful gods, smiled and shook his head. You go back first, and Lord of Storm, come with me, I will take you back. This Lord of Storm involves a little bit of the law of magnetic field. Aofu thinks it would be interesting to keep such a dog-headed fish at home. You know, the dog-headed fish can live in his house without buying a house. This is a privilege that many people in the great wilderness cannot enjoy. This is also one of the privileges of the legendary strongman in the great wilderness city. The Lord of Storm was reluctant, but still stood up. Aofu smiled and said nothing. Many citizens of the great wilderness city in the early days were just ordinary as in farmers, and the houses in the great wilderness city were still allocated. But now they have transformed directly, and their status is more noble than many gods in the secondary planes. This dogfish is not satisfied with being able to live directly in the great wilderness. Although it is just living in a fish tank, it is also very good. At least compared to many gods here who want to live in the great wilderness city, but have no place to live. This is what Lin Ke said, losing at the starting line. Of course, before the finish line, it is uncertain who will win or lose. Thinking of this, Aofu thought of Zyro Naomi and the others who had been sent away before. They are the ones who won at the starting line. Thinking of this, Aofu's eyes glowed, and he looked up into the distance. Aofu wanted to check where Zyro Naomi and the others who had just been teleported were, and whether they had returned safely. You know, except for Zyro Naomi, the others are also the pride of Dahuang University, and Rashad is the most talented one among them. No mistakes can be made in public or private. While Aofu's eyes glowed, he took out a chess piece in his hand and used the magic link with Yale to try to get in touch. But what made Aofu frown was that he couldn't even connect. Exclamation mark. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.